This is a story of how you became heroic. There was this abandoned house that you heard about. You heard it was dangerous in this house, but you also heard there's probably treasure in there. And you've always been a bit special in this regard, in that you decided to take the chance. You come to this abandoned house alone, each of you. There's trash all over the place. There's a weird smell as soon as you open that door. You find a library. All the bookshelves have been pulled down and pulled over, making a terrible mess on the floor. You come across a dead body lying on the floor. It's been dead for a long time. It's mummified. He is wearing a red silk lounging robe, and his skull has been smashed in. So there's movement in the corner, and that startles you, but with relief, you find that it's just a mother rabbit and some kits, her babies. They've made a nest over in the corner of all this. So you decide to start looking through this library, moving the books around, and eventually you find what you're hoping to find. A treasure chest. A treasure chest has got a rusty lock on it, which is good. You don't really know how to pick locks. You haven't learned that yet, but you can grab a heavy book and you smash that lock off and you're able to get the chest open. When you open it up, the first thing you notice is a big dead rat in this chest. But you also see treasure. You see these glistening crystal bottles. They have little stoppers in them, and they're all different colored fluids. And they're so clean and so new, you know they must be magical because they're not covered with hair and shit like everything else in this chest. Pretty much everything in this house. You also see, equally clean and promising looking, is a jeweled dagger. The corpse of the rat jumps out of the chest. It looks at you with these rotted eyes, these rotting flesh in the sockets, but there's a little red pinprick of light in each of the eye sockets. And when it looks at you, it opens its jaws, this rotting flesh inside. That smell gets much worse as it goes, and then it turns, because there's movement attracting its attention, and it starts to lumber over to the side of the room, away from you, towards that rabbit and the little kits. At that moment, what did you do? Only you know what happened next in that house. What's the very next thing that you did? Did you grab one of those bottles and drink it? Did you go for that dagger? Did you attack the rat with whatever you had at hand? Did you move between the rat and the rabbit, to protect her? Did you try to command the rat? Only you know what happened next. And that's the first two elements of D&D. The first one in your mind right now is the world. The world is the first element that I'm building right now, or I'm putting into your heads. Now, you do most of the work. This world is one that I made, but I borrowed a lot of it from official D&D sources, what other people have done, movies that I've watched, books that I've read, and other stuff I just made up. So for the first stage, we'll just try to imagine this world together. And then you'll start making choices like you did with this rat. Okay, so you got into a horse-drawn carriage. So this horse-drawn carriage has a trip to take. It's going east to a place called Timberway Valley. Now you're starting off in a town that I'll describe, but Timberway Valley is your destination no matter where you start. It is a wild frontier, or at least most call it that. Some of you may have actually originally come from Timberway Valley. You might come from hundreds of generations that have lived there, but you came to this side of the mountains maybe to make your fortune or to, build up some power and some skills, and you're ready to go back. Most of you probably haven't seen Timberway Valley, but you've heard about it. A wild frontier is described. There's farms there, but they're among these ancient ruins of a long dead empire. Now to get there, you need to go over this cold, dangerous mountain pass. That's what the carriage is for. There's horses, there's a driver, there's 2 guards. This is going to cost a lot of your money. Pretty much all the money that a regular person would have built up would have been the equivalent of your life savings. Some of you might find on your character sheets, if you continue playing, you might have some extras. But for now, your character sheets are very simple. And if you haven't been described before, don't worry about what's on your sheets, okay? Just picture yourself getting on this carriage, having spent all this money. Now the carriage starts at a place called Neverwinter. Neverwinter is a big city. So maybe this is where, maybe out of a few places, this is where you got on the carriage. So if you got on here, why? You get to make up your backstory, as we say. You don't have to commit to it. You don't have to make this decision. You don't have to write it all out ahead of time. You can make it up as you go along, or even retroactively make it up as you go. But you might be thinking already, start imagining, why did you get on the carriage here? Maybe there's gang trouble that you got into. Maybe there's trouble with the law that you're running away from. Maybe you just got sick of the city. You've heard about the wilds and you want to live in the truly wild area. Maybe you worked in a shop and you saw somebody come in and sell something absolutely beautiful and fascinating that reminded you of that treasure that you found back in the old days. And they said they found it in one of the ruins of Timberway Valley, and that might have sparked your imagination to go there. So maybe that's where you got on to the carriage as it heads out. So this carriage follows a road out of town towards the north. It goes northeast, and you'll notice I'll gesture as if I'm in a big holodeck here, and this is the way north. So you go sort of northeast, and you can see up there's a huge mountain range in the distance that you're getting closer to, but it's pretty far now. You go through some farmland and villages. And maybe this is where you got on the carriage for the first time. You've been waiting here, you've been working here, you've been living here in the farmlands. And maybe you want to start your own farm. Maybe you just want more land and you know that those exist in Timberway Valley. Maybe you'd had some fighting. There's some wolves and giant rats and things like that that are surrounding here. And maybe you killed a few and you discovered you're very good at it and you kind of have a taste for it. And everybody said, hey, you're pretty good at that. What are you, an adventurer? Are you a hero? Ha ha ha. Maybe in your mind you're starting to think, maybe I am a hero. Maybe I should go out to Timberway Valley to find harder challenges. I'm ready for more. Maybe you just had a terrible family that you wanted to get away from. Maybe that family is coming on with you on the carriage. We'll find out. You can decide that later. Now, the carriage, it skirts around a lake, a giant lake called Lake Nen. Now things are getting... Lake Nen is where things start to feel quite wild, especially if you haven't seen it before, but maybe you got on here because you've been living near Lake Nen. Lake Nen has got, elves are everywhere, but there's a lot of elves here that live in the original tree houses that elves traditionally have built over many, many millennia. There are halflings in what are called hobbit holes, these big round doors dotting the hillsides. Again, halflings are found everywhere, but this is where, again, they sort of live in a traditional way, close to the land. So maybe you got on here. And maybe the adventures on this lake, you liked being on the water. You liked sort of cruising around and seeing the shore, and you heard that across the mountain near Timberway Valley, it's like the world's biggest lake. It's a lake so big you can't see the other side. They call it the sea. Maybe you want to go see that for the first time. Maybe you just know that your people used to live in these wild lands, or maybe you're returning home to those truly wild lands. This is just not wild enough for you. You want to get as wild as possible out east. Maybe you had a religious experience. You're out there in the forest eating mushrooms, smoking various herbs, and you saw God, one of the many gods that are rumored to be hovering over, watching what mortals are doing. And God told you to go to Timberway Valley, or else. So you might be on a religious calling. So the carriage goes up the mountain road now, through the foothills, switchbacking eventually to get up into the steep stuff. And once you're up in the mountains, you start heading east. And east takes you across a big bridge. Under this bridge is a stunning waterfall. This waterfall is the source of the river that you've been following and the source of Lake Nen. There's an inn here called Falling Water. Sometimes they call the whole town Falling Water because the inn is so influential. So Falling Water, maybe this is where you got on the carriage because you've been living in these mountains. Maybe you've been mining, maybe you've been just a survivalist, maybe you've been with an organization that needs to hide up in the hills. So maybe this is where you got on. You can see from this high distance, in the far distance, the smoky smudge of Neverwinter on the horizon. Now it's to the south. I'm going to gesture off this way. Okay, there's a Neverwinter in this smoky distance. A lot of dwarves are here. Again, you'll find dwarves everywhere, but there might be a lot of dwarves here, and they've been mining. They're coming here to the inn for a bit of a break, and this is where you stop for the night. Very conveniently, this inn is right at the spot where, if you've left from Neverwinter, you're really tired and it's getting dark and it's time for a rest. So the driver and the guards all park here, and you spend the night here at Falling Water Inn. In the inn, You get to decide how drunk you get. But if you're ever in the inn, I imagine you are, you see a dwarf, a very strong dwarf. He's standing up on the bar. He's got this red fur cloak that's just completely vivid all around him. He's got a battle axe above him. He's swaying back and forth as he's singing battle songs, getting everybody to sing along with him. All right. So hopefully your imagination has been excited. Now it's okay, some people say, I just don't have an imagination. But some people build their imagination through games like this. But in any case, you have a lot of interesting facts to choose from. But if you're imagining this, that's part of the magic of D&D. You see things in your mind, and it gets really weird. The more that you play D&D, it really starts to feel real. Your brain gets kind of tricked by this perpetual imagination, especially because you are there. You are in all of this. So you see it in your mind, and you make up parts of the story that the parts that I don't describe, you get to sort of fill in yourself. And one is, why did you get on this carriage? You decide that story. So I'm just going to ask for just a quick show of hands. You're not committing to this. It's not in ink. But if you have an idea, I'm going to ask you to keep your hands up. If you think of those 4 places you got on at the big city Neverwinter, raise your hand a little bit. And everybody look around, keep your hand up and look around at other people who have their hands up. Now, this is your opportunity to say, if you're near somebody who has their hand up, maybe eventually you'll decide, we actually got in the carriage together because we know each other. We're enemies, we're friends, we're a teacher and a student, we're a jailer and a prisoner, we are siblings, we are parent-child, we're just great friends. Or we're enemies, and as soon as my enemy got on the carriage, I wanted to get on the carriage to do whatever my enemy was doing. So you might decide when you see those hands up, when we do each of these things, who else might be on the carriage with you because you might know them. All right, so next, who thinks they got on at the farms north of Neverwinter, that farmland? Raise your hand if you got on the farmland. Again, look around at the people with your hands up. Okay, when you see each other later, you might decide that you know each other in these small towns. Who got in at Lake Nen, that wooded lake village? Raise your hand, look around. It's a very small place, so take a look and see if you are starting to make up a story about why the two of you got on. They're probably in the same small village. And who got in at this Falling Water Inn high up in the mountains? Raise your hand. Again, look around. And again, you might be on survival camp. You might have been in a mine together. You might have been outlaws together. This is an opportunity to make that thing up. Now, you all came from different places. You are now unified on a dangerous journey in this carriage. The next morning, you take off from Falling Water Inn, and it's before dawn. It's very cold. Your driver, Vistra, same driver. I've described Vistra. Vistra is now very flamboyantly dressed. Was also fabulously dressed yesterday, but even more fabulously today. They have very vivid makeup on. They have really high hair. And especially on this beautiful morning, Vistra is spouting verse. Vistra considers themselves a bit of a poet, and they're always making up little poems about what's going on. So Vistra is sitting in the driver's seat. You have the 2 guards. The guards they've got spears and bows. They're siblings, and sometimes I don't know what they are, right? So sometimes I'll roll a die like this just to inspire myself, say, ooh, 19, okay, that's gonna be something very unusual. They're tieflings. Tieflings have devilish blood in them. Now, that doesn't make them evil. It just means that somewhere in their background, they had devils or demons somewhere in their background, which means that, imagine these guards, they have unusual skin, like pink or purple skin. They have little horns. They might even the armor might have a little tail sticking out the back, right? So they're tieflings because I rolled so high. You got some unusual ones. Anyway, these 2 siblings are, one is stocky with a very strong jaw and stubble and is wearing these heavy green gloves. The other one is much more thin and lithe, has very bright eyes and long braided hair, shiny lips. They are armed. They're looking ahead on the road as you take off on the carriage. They're very wary. You remember how dangerous this journey is supposed to be. So we're going to get to the second element of D&D, which is choice. So this is what you do, what you choose. I can't control what you choose. So if I'm the dungeon master and you're a player sitting at my table, I can't make you choose things. I can give you various options, and you might come up with an option I didn't even think of. Your choices and my world, they intersect with each other because your choices might bring you to different parts of my world, and that world reacts to you, and that world gives you new reasons to choose new things. Sometimes you change the world through your choices. So this interaction already is making things a little bit unusual. We're building a story. It sounds like a story when you tell it in retrospect, but as it's being built, neither of us know how the story is going to go. Nobody's in control, and we haven't even got to the third element yet. So let's get to a choice. While you're climbing up in this carriage uphill, it's a very cold, early, dark morning, and to your left, uphill, so you're going this way, and up the hill, you see caves up there. And the bright-eyed guard appears, and she says quickly, put out the lanterns, put out the lanterns. This carriage had lanterns on the front. Vistra hears this and says, ah, yes, the morning lord has us well in his arms. Let us save the oil to slip from the grip of night. The stocky guard growls, we may lose more than oil. There's Sturges coming this way. Sturges! Phrase that when the dungeon master smiles, it's time to start worrying. Sturges! Now, these are like bats crossed with mosquitoes, and their bodies are about this big. They're about the size of puppies. They flap towards you because they're attracted by light and heat on a cold morning. That's you, light and heat, plenty of that. They swarm out from that cave at a distance coming downhill. The guards are shouting, all of you inside the carriage, to close the windows. But, this is a budget carriage. Not all the windows really close, or maybe you're a little bit slow, you're maybe a little hungover. For whatever reason, not all the windows on your carriage have been closed. And some Sturges come flying in through that window and sit amongst you and start drinking tea. No, they don't. They start drinking you. So, when they come in and fly and attack, some of you, they grab your back with those claws, they stick that nose into your jugular vein, and they start to suck your blood. Yum. Now, we are going to play this out. What you want to do with these ropes, I bet you've been wondering what the ropes are for. You want to end up like slide number 4 here, where each of you is holding the end of one rope. Now, if you want to be sneaky, one of you can hide the 2 ends of the rope, and somebody picks it. So you don't know what the colors mean, but just pick up a rope. If you want to be sneaky, hide the rope before you offer it to somebody. But everybody here, we can't continue until everybody's holding an end of a rope. And if you're an odd person on the table, you could reach across to the next table over, or temporarily you can stand at another table. You can come back to your spot. So everybody should be holding one end of one rope exactly. And we can't continue until that goes. And hold it up so our volunteers can harangue you if you do not have a partner. Good, good. How's everybody back there? Yeah, okay, good. We got a volunteer volunteering down there. That's great. Everybody set? Volunteers, are we ready? Okay, we got a volunteer. All right, great. Okay, fantastic. So, as we do this, you now have a red end or a silver end in your hand. Okay, so you've got that partner, everybody set, great, okay, great. Turn the page, all right. Now, I'm going to talk to all of you who are holding the red end right now because there's something that's going to happen. You're like this person on the left of the slide, right? You have the red end, you have a sturge stuck in your neck. Congratulations, you're lucky. It's sucking away your blood. All right. Now, if you have the silver end, like the other person here, if you have the silver end of the rope, you're sitting next to someone with that person that you're linked to. You're sitting next to that person, and you get the opportunity to help. Do you help? Maybe not. I mean, this all happens in a moment, just like in that house. You had to decide in a moment whether to help them or not. Now, you're risking yourself. There's no sturge stuck in your neck, and these things have claws. They can turn on you. So to help is to put yourself in danger. However, if you don't help the person who has the red end, who has the sturge, they're going to lose a lot of blood. They might take care of the problem themselves eventually, but if you don't help them, it's going to be worse for them than if you do. All right. So I am going to ask you to make that choice, but make a note. There's a difference between you as a person and you as a character. And part of the fun of D&D can be to be an ideal version of yourself, right? You want to be a better, more active, more brave person than yourself. That may influence your choice. But you may be too good in your own life. You're tired of following rules. You're tired of deferring to other people. You want to be selfish. You don't know these people. You want to be selfish and not help, for example. That's fine. We encourage that because in D&D, this is our chance to play, right? We're in a magic circle. You're not supposed to blame the person for what their character does. The DM will take care of, if things really creepy are happening, the DM should step in. But little things like this, it's good to roll with it. Your character can do things that you would not do. Make a choice that excites you, being good, being bad, being ideal, whatever else, and this is how we explore the fun of things. Now, don't telegraph what you're about to do as I describe the choices. I'm going to ask all of you. So in a moment, I'll ask all of you to close your eyes. And then I'll ask you, if you have the silver end, you're the one making the choice. Don't telegraph this. But if you have the silver end, you're going to quietly either hold your thumb up, which means, yeah, I'm going to help you. Or you're going to put your palm up, say, nah, I'm not going to help you. That'll be a silent vote that you're making. And then, of course, we'll reveal. So no talking. It's a silent decision. And I'll tell you to open your eyes, and you'll see what your partner decided. So everybody look at your end of the rope, because you know if you have the silver end, you're going to be the one making the decision. Everybody close your eyes. Close your eyes. Silver enders, make your choice. Hold up your thumb or your palm quietly. Gonna give everybody a moment. It's a flash decision. Now, everybody open your eyes. Okay, and remember, so just keep that thumb or palm up. We have a mix. We have people doing each. Okay, great. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Always fun. Always fun. Okay. So, I'm gonna temporarily split the story here. Okay, the story's gonna split temporarily because I'm gonna talk to there are two different kinds of groups that we have now with a slightly different story. Okay, if you're holding the silver end and you put your palm up, just you and your red partner, just wait a minute. You know, I'll get to you in a minute. Okay, I'm gonna talk to you who had the silver end and you put your thumb up. Here's what happens: you save your buddy holding the red end, and here's what happens. In the carriage, you at the silver end, you got behind your buddy, you grabbed at that sturge, but that sturge tries to evade you. You know, its claws dig in even more. And as it evades, it starts reaching out for you, it grabs your arm and gives you a big bad scratch down your arm. You take damage, which I get to teach you now. On your character sheet, you have something called hit points. It's up in the top there, so you can see it on the screen. There's an ink thing that says max HP. I want you, if you have the silver end and you put your thumb up, you've taken damage as I described, write down one fewer than that number, right? So here on the screen, somebody had 8 maximum hit points and they wrote down to 7 because they lost 1 hit point. So it's basically your new total. So you see that? And again, if you're totally confused, everybody here is a beginner. Everybody here should not be left behind. So if you're confused, raise your hand, make pleading eyes with a volunteer, and they will help you out. So if you have the silver end, and I'm going very slow, I know, silver end and your thumb was up, then you've now subtracted 1 hit point. That's all. Okay. So, by the way, yeah, the sheet you should have the sheet with the QR code. It doesn't really matter too much if you start, but for now, make sure the QR code is on the top of the sheet now as you do this. All right. I've done that. Okay. So, everybody good? Good. Okay. Now, talking the same pair. If you're holding the other end, if you're a red end partner and you're facing someone who put their thumb up, the surge sucks some blood out of you before the situation gets resolved. So you also take 1 hit point of damage. So now if you were facing a partner with a thumb up, you still take damage, 1 hit point of damage, the same way here. All right. And now all you pairs that had a thumb up, I'm done with you for now. Give me a moment. I'm going to talk to you who had a partner and who has a silver end who put their palm up. Okay, so here's your story. So you that put your palm up in the silver end, you step away like, no, not my problem. You put your hands back and you get out of there. And you take no damage. So you don't have to touch that pencil. As promised, no damage to you. You, if you're holding the other red end and you're facing someone who had their palm up, you tried to pull out your own sturge. Well, there's an old phrase, never try to pull out your own sturge. It really, it evades you. It skitters around. It's very good at this. By the time you pull it out from this odd angles, claws digging into you, it takes a few tries. It is fat with your blood, is drunk deep by the time you get in your hands, and you must take 3 points of damage. So if you had a red end and you're facing someone with their palm up, subtract 3. Yeah, so now, for the first time, if you're subtracting, it'd be your first time. Now you've subtracted 3. Now, some people freeze up with math. You're very smart people, but say, I don't know what 8 minus 3 is. Everybody's looking at me. It's always okay at my tables to just say 8 minus 3 out loud, and anyone at the table is allowed to give the total. As soon as you hear a sum, say the total for them. Some people just freeze. If you don't want people to do that, then just do the math quietly in your head, and we'll get to more examples of this. So it's okay. If you can't subtract 3 from 5, 3 from 8, see, I just made a mistake myself. You're not dumb. It's just the way it goes. People freeze up. I do this. If somebody's looking at me typing, I can't type when someone's watching me type. It's so embarrassing. So same thing. All right. So you've lost 3 hit points of damage. You look at that max things. Okay. So everyone, you're still holding the rope, all right? You'll throw down the sturge. In both cases, we're going to merge the stories together. In all cases, the sturge is dead. It gets thrown on the ground. It gets stomped. Blood spatters. His guts are all over the floor. It's just really gross, like a squash mosquito, 100 times bigger. And it's gross. There's flapping sound. Outside, there's flapping. And you realize there's latecomer sturges. These are the old, slow, crafty sturges. They've done this many times before. They've been quietly sneaking through the fog to the other side of the carriage where there's another window open, and they come in through the other side of the carriage to be a second wave of attack. So all of you swap ends of the rope, please. Oh no. Swap ends of the rope. Right? Silver end gets the red gets the silver. So now we're going to do this again because there's another wave of sturges coming in. Same choice, different roles, right? So if you got the red end, now you've got a sturge in your neck. Now, if you've got the silver end, maybe your partner played it safe when you were bit, in which case, you definitely want revenge. But also, how badly hurt that person's going to get. Even if they screwed you over, maybe you want to help them anyway because, fewer hit points lost between you is good for the party, right? Then maybe that's the right thing to do. Or you just want to take revenge and say, no, you're going to get it too. Now, if your partner helped you, that's nice. Maybe you should return the favor. You would think you would return the favor, but there are no more sturges. This is the last one. And you're going to get hurt if you help out. There's definitely no sturges after this. I promise you as a DM, this is the last time that we'll be going through this. So maybe you want to play it safe now? It's up to you. Do not telegraph what you're doing. Or if you do telegraph, please lie. Because we're going to do this again, remembering the difference between you as a character and you as a person. And we will get back to the start. You'll get ready to do your yeah versus nah. So if you have the silver end, you're going to be the one holding up either a thumb or a palm. Eyes closed, everybody. Those of you with your silver end, quietly hold up your palm or your thumb. You got just a quick decision. 3, 2, 1. Open your eyes and look what your partner did. Okay, you can put the ropes down. All right. That's a choice, right? That's what choice is all about. All right, so we'll just do this again quickly this time, right? So remember, if you have the silver end and you put your palm up, we're going to wait. If you have the silver end and you put your thumb up, you lose one more hit point. So if you have the thumb up with the silver end, you're back. But if you've lost hit points already, now you just cross out the old toad and you subtract one more. Now you've gone down one more hit point. You can see there. Again, if you're mystified, wave down to volunteer. Right? So you've lost one more. If you are holding the other end, if you are the red end, you're facing a partner with their thumb up, you also get some blood sucked out and you lose a hit point as well. So same thing as before, cross it out and write a new number. Losing hit points. Some of you might be getting a little low, especially if there's been a hand in your history. And all of you with the thumb up, we're done with you. If you have a partner who put their palm up, we're going to do that again. If you have the silver end to put your palm up, no loss of hit points. The sturge is not your problem. If you're facing someone with their palm up, you lose 3 hit points. So subtract 3 hit points. 3 hit points of damage. And sort of like this, but subtract more. Okay? All right. Great. Da-da-da. All right, so you can put your ropes down. You can sanitize. You can do whatever you need to. I did this during COVID. I had made a lot of sanitizer jokes, but I deleted them. Okay, so now it's fine if your character is selfish. That's part of the fun. You might be the start of an arc. You might start off selfish and play a character who discovers how to work with others. Maybe you started off idealistic, and after getting screwed over a few times, you become more bitter and more selfish as time. Changing your character as you go is a perfectly great part of D&D. So again, maybe in real life you want to explore what it's like to break bad. This is your chance. All right. Now, even the most selfish character, when you're in a party, which we'll be discussing later, you'll soon realize that if you're with other extraordinary people in a very dangerous place, even if you're a selfish, evil bastard, you still probably don't want to watch your fellow teammates get too badly off because they're the ones protecting you. This is a team game, and you'll be facing enemies that require a team to face down. So you might say, oh, I'm evil. I'll screw over anybody, but I'm not going to screw over people in my group because they're going to abandon me, and they're here to protect me. So you can also have different kinds of morality depending on who you're with. All right. Now, your tables back there have 4 people. We have tables here that can be assembled into groups. And when we assemble in groups, we'll be doing it like this. Okay. You've got various color sheets. So as we go in, you're all going to form groups. And the tables are easy. You're all in a group there, and you all should have different character sheets. So you people at the tables are fine. You in the front, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 2 groups of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can form a group of 4 and a group of 5, or team up with your buddy. Definitely. You can form groups of 3 is fine. So 2 groups of 3 and a group of 4, however you want to do it. So what you want to do, just to help our volunteers, you in the back are fine, but if you're in the middle, if you're a group just kind of cluster together, maybe hold on to the same rope and sort of point at each other, the volunteer is going to make sure that everybody's in a group. It can't be larger than 5. I'd rather have groups of 4. And a group of 2 is fine. It's a little lonely. So form groups, use your ropes, point at each other. Pick up your ropes and tangle your ropes together. Here, I have an example. Like this. Just make it easier for volunteers. Tangle your ropes up. Tangle your ropes up to show the volunteers that you're in a group with somebody. Just make it obvious. Yeah, it's okay to change tables, of course. Yeah, there's table 3. That's ideal. Yeah, some of these tables are a little crowded. It's great if somebody wants to leave one of the crowded tables and go back there to that group of 3. Good. Yes, good. See, they've tangled the ropes up. Good. We have a nice group of 4 back there. We have a group of 4 here. I see that. Yeah? They're good there? And this middle table, Kate, is all good? Yeah? Okay, great. And thank you for moving. That's awesome. You people at the tables there, that's great. Okay. All right. Now, you who are tangled, you can drop your rope again. Now, those of you who are tangled by the rope are agreed. You, and just you, so you can start ignoring the people outside of your group at this table, you are an adventuring party. So I'll refer to the party. Yay, party! You're an adventuring party! So you're an adventuring party. And when you play D&D again, as I hope you do, imagine that it's just your group sitting at a table, and I'm sitting at the end of the table as the DM. I'm called the Dungeon Master, or DM for short. And I kind of, as I've described, to sort of run the rules of the game, run the world, and do that. That's how we go with real D&D. All right. So tonight, just pretend that it's just your group talking to me. I'll be talking to you all, of course, and I'll have to make some compromises for that, but just pretend that it's just me and you amongst the group. Only you. And I'm going to DM for all of you at once, but hopefully this is still going to be fun. Are you having fun so far? Still going good? Okay. And things will start speeding up if you're, oh, it's so boring. Remember that I'm trying to make sure that nobody gets left behind. I really want to make sure that everybody gets on the same rung of the ladder. And it gets way better. So all the choices get bigger, more autonomy, more choices. You're just getting started. Now, imagine that this carriage has all of you who are in your adventuring party, and all of you are at that table together, of course. And there's also regular people in this carriage. Not non-adventurous types are also in this carriage with you that paid the ticket to get on. Well, they're not adventurous. They were freaked out by the Sturges. Some of them got bit by the Sturges, and some of them, they're like lying unconscious or very sick because the Sturges really knocked them out. Maybe they're not dead, but they're not looking well. Now, what do I mean by adventurous types? Because there's a real difference here. You are special. Every one of you feels like you've always been this way and you've always stood out. You probably have never met anyone like you until today. Someone who has this special quality. The only time you hear about people who are like you is in these stories about heroes. Maybe you're a hero. You know that like one person in 10,000 has this blessing by the gods or by magic or by random chance or some genes which haven't been invented yet. Maybe you are very special in a few ways. So you could be heroic. And these stories are very interesting. Heroic stories involve a lot of early signs. Well, you have them. You're a very fast learner. You pick up things in a few days that other people take years to master. If you put your mind to it. Especially it's a very hard, dangerous challenge. You learn things very quickly. You also bounce back from harm weirdly fast, right? If you get cut or if you get hurt, even if you break a bone, if you sit down for a few hours and kind of pull your bone in place, just meditate, mend your armor, whatever you have, in a couple hours, you feel better. Like your wounds heal, your bones start to set. If you can die, you've heard that heroes can die, but you heal super fast. And maybe that's made you bolder than most people. Maybe you've taken more chances because of this. You know that if you get a long rest, like if you sleep after a really hard day of adventuring, when you've really pushed yourself, when you wake up, you're totally okay. All of your wounds are healed. Your guts were falling out once, maybe because of like a wolf that attacked you, and people thought you wouldn't wake up. You wake up and there's no sign of having been bitten. And people say, you sound like a hero. Well, heroes can go many directions. They could be good, they could be evil, but you're destined for great things. So maybe this is one reason you got onto this carriage. All right, so you feel called. Now, when I describe these, you also are extraordinary at certain attributes that you can look at your sheet. So I'll be mentioning things like, you can see on your sheet down that side of the sheet, it says things like strength and wisdom and intelligence. And there's a big number that might say -1, 0, +1, +2, or +3 over a word like strength or wisdom. And as I do so, I just want you to have some context. 0 or -1 means you're just average. Like 0 means you're just like pretty much everybody else in your village at that particular thing. 0 in strength means you're about as strong as everybody else in your village. -1 means you're a little bit on the weedy side, but nothing extraordinary. Same thing with intelligence, wisdom, charisma, which is the power of personality, which I'll be describing later, and things like that. However, every point above 0 is more extraordinary. If you have a +1 at something, you're remarkable at that, remarkably strong, remarkably wise, remarkably intelligent. Remarkably dexterous. If you have a +2, it is really impressive. Like, people think it's weird how good you are at that particular thing. If you have a +3, it's like being a national champion at that thing. If it's charisma, you are like a nationwide star as far as how much people want to listen to you and watch you. Strength means you're winning, everybody in the whole state, has to compete against you. Star athlete. You're incredible at that if you got a +3. And you can see you're all different in certain ways, and we'll get to that. All right, so we move on. The next element is dice, the third element of D&D. Now, nobody controls the dice. You'll hear a lot of superstition. Nobody controls the dice. They really are random, though I like to refer to them not being random when it amuses me, but nobody controls them. And they give the story random twists that we all must deal with, both of us. I can't control the dice, neither can you, and that means nobody is in control. No one person, and sometimes none of us at the table are in control because we're all leaning on what the dice are going to do next. It goes in crazy directions as a result, and this is what is so interactive and magical about D&D. Now, you're in this carriage, you're rolling along that mountain road, and the carriage has you and the others in your party, and those other people. The carriage stops. You hear the guard on top call out, as if yelling at someone in the distance, and calls out, "Oi! We're not going to pay a toll to you, scum!" You hear voices outside. They must be way out in front of the carriage, and you hear many laughs, ho, 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 at a big distance. And there's a voice that you don't recognize. You hear a voice at the distance say, "Oh, well, tough nuts, we scum outnumber you. Oh, you'll get 5 arrows in your chest, and you're going to fire your 2 arrows at us, and that will leave, a few of us alive, and then we'll swarm you, we'll get to collect the toll anyway, so pay up." Road bandits. Ooh. No, you're heroes, you don't have time for this. All right, so you're going to make a show of force, heroes. You are going to get out of your carriage. You got this. As you get out, I want you to imagine what you look like. What's your attitude? What are you wearing? What's the expression on your face? You're going to fill in some details in your mind. Picture yourself in the mind. How do you pose? Do you look crazy? Do you look dangerous? Do you look very persuasive, like, trying to be nice? Say a couple words. Everybody say a couple words to the other people in your party about what you look like and what your attitude is right now. I'll give you a minute to talk amongst yourselves. Describe yourself. And just a sentence or two, just 1 or 2 sentences, then let somebody else speak. Good, I'm hearing good stuff. Even a word, what's one word to describe yourself? Just one word, dear friends. Great. Make sure everybody has a chance to say something, even a word or two. Okay, good. I think we're getting near the end, so wrap it up. If somebody has not said a word, if you haven't spoken yet, say one word to describe yourself right now. One word. If you haven't spoken yet, this is your last chance to say a word. Okay, great. Oh, so much fun. It warms my heart. I love seeing people, do that imagination and talk to each other. It's just awesome. Good job. Okay. So it's kind of fun to have that mental image of yourself and others. And again, it can be like a movie that plays out in your head to immerse yourself. So out you come of the carriage looking like that, whatever you described, all right? Now, when you do, you see there are 5 bandits, and they're all behind trees and rocks at a distance. They've got their bows drawn, pointed at you all. They see you, and they freak. They're scared shitless. Like, whoa! And you look like heroes, right? You do not look ordinary. And so they immediately realize you are not easy pickings, and they just leg it immediately. All right, hey! Your first victory, yes! Yeah, looking crazy, looking sad, looking dumb, whatever, looking intimidating, whatever you did, scares the shit out of them, and they leave. All right, good going. Now, you see there's stuff they left behind. Some they deliberately threw down to maybe hope that you would take their stuff instead of chasing them. And you get to see coins and gems brought back by the guards, from what the bandits had accumulated. Oh boy. Now, Vistra and the guards, they get first pick of the treasure because this is their enterprise, but they have to acknowledge that it was because of you that no fighting had to break out. So you get a little bit of treasure. Now, if this were real D&D, and when I say that, I mean just me and just the 4 or 5 of you at the table, I wouldn't make you make this choice. I'd say, what do you all do? I might give you some ideas, like it's traditional to let Vistra take most of it and you split up what's left. But you could all vote and say, like, no, we're going to demand that Vistra gives us all of it. And then I might roll and say, well, Vistra's pissed off and won't take you on the carriage. You say, fine, we don't want to be on the carriage. And you go marching off down the road. That would really screw up my script here. So I'm going to ask you, we're going to pretend that you agree to take this deal. But if this were real D&D, it wouldn't be my choice, remember? I don't get control what you choose. Okay, so let's do that. Yeah, you could choose to chase down the bandits right away. Like the bandits have just left. You say, okay, we're going to chase after the bandits. They've probably got more stuff. Let's go. Again, we'll take the middle path. Say, no, you're going to let the bandits go at least until you sort of make a longer discussion. At least split up the treasure. Treasure is very important. So we're going to skip violence for the moment. And Vistra thanks you for scaring them off and gives each of you some small gems. Okay. Now, there's one of each of these sitting in front of your little group, but each gem is a different value, right? The higher ones are worth more. The higher up this list, the more valuable that gem is, the ruby is worth the most, and the amethyst is worth the least. How do you split them up? You made an agreement. Adventurers have a typical pact where you promise to split treasure evenly. If it's coins, that's easy. But if it's something that can't be split, like a gem, you roll for it. So we're going to get to some dice rolling. Don't do it yet. So when you roll the die, you will be looking at its result like you see on the screen here. One little trick, the 6 and the 9, of course, can look very similar. You position it so like there's a full stop after the 6. So you see a 6 dot or 9 dot, right? You would turn it around so that the full stop is after the number. That's how you tell the difference between a 6 and a 9. Now your characters also have dice. They're not plastic like this. They're cool. They're probably bone or stone or crystal, right? So you have a little D20 dice as an adventurer, and you're going to roll it to make this code of conduct work. You've agreed. Please don't roll yet. You're going to avoid fighting or betraying each other, right? To stay strong and unified. So it's, as part of this agreement, each of you take turns rolling a die once and remember your number. So everybody now take a turn rolling a die and remember your number. Just once. For example, I rolled a 17. Right? Hey, so eventually you'll have a number. Okay, everybody's rolled? So you're going to compare numbers. Whoever has the highest number gets the... Whoever's the highest number gets the highest gem on the list. It's worth the most. And then descend by numbers, right? The highest number gets the highest one, and then just go in order. Sort out amongst yourselves. If somebody is tied, if 2 people are tied, then just the 2 of you will roll dice just to break the tie. You can't suddenly go to the top or bottom of the list. You just do a second roll if you're tied. Sort yourself out. And when you do, write down the gem that you got on your character sheet. I'll tell you how. Blah, blah, blah. Yep, break the tie. So in the lower left corner of your character sheet is a big blank spot. Just write down ruby, emerald, whatever else. Write down the gem you got. Again, if you don't get it, if you're arguing, if somebody's not playing fair, the volunteers can help sort it out. They're temporary DMs. All good? Okay. Now, if you're in a group of 3 or 4, there's 2 of the cheapest gems are left behind. Those are taken by maybe some other people in the carriage that looked okay. You give them the smallest gems. Like, okay, you got out with your little club. I guess you helped, so you give them the small gems. So each of you only gets 1 gem. Okay. Great. So I just want to ask something. So did anybody in the party say, "Oh, I steal your gem because I'm a criminal"? Nobody noticed that? Huh? It's somebody, surely. Almost I was like, yeah, it's in my character to steal things, you see. I can't help it. I'm a criminal. I steal your gem. I'm going to roll dice to see if I get to steal your gem. It's like, no. The DM now, even though technically with the rules you could do that, the DMs like me say, no, you're not going to screw each other over. We're not going to tell a story about how you screw each other over. We're going to tell a story about how you unify against a big, bad world. You're not going to be able to do that if you're mad at each other. So, yeah. But it's typical. If you're a rogue, right? If you have that blue sheet that says criminal up there, that's fine. You might steal from everybody else, outside the party. That's where you can be a criminal, but not within the party. Don't screw each other over, right? But it's great. You can make those bold choices. There are consequences, but that's good. All right. Okay. So you're a character who at least wants to work cooperatively. You're like a sports team, right? As a sports team, it's like you are against the monsters or the other team, and you don't grab the ball away from your teammate. If it's not a good time to grab the ball, you save those nasty moves against your opponents. Okay. Now, back to a bit of a choice. I stopped you from making a choice earlier because I said you can't immediately chase and kill those bandits, but let's explore choice again. All right. So this is going to affect the world, your choice now, and put you in a new situation, and then the dice will make the situation unpredictable. So let's pretend, again, real D&D at the table. It's a table with just me and you and those few others. And let's pretend that some of you in your group say, hey, we should find those bandits right away. They've only left a minute ago. Let's chase after them. Don't let them get away with it. Maybe others in your party are arguing, like, nah, that's getting distracted. What if the carriage leaves? No, let's get back on the carriage. Let it go. We already got some treasure. And you debate what to do. As a DM, I'd let you debate, and then there'd be a vote, like literally a majority vote on which way to do. And as a DM, I'd say, okay, you got to unify around that vote. You can't split the party. You have to have a majority rule. You all stay or you all go. So we would have that choice. Now, in this big room, of course, we can't keep the thing split for too long, so we have to simplify. So let's pretend the party's considering only 2 choices. Find the bandits right away or let them get away with it. And instead of a vote, I'm going to flip a coin, and let's pretend that your party voted that way to simulate that, right? Now, I'm going to come down there, and I'm going to flip a coin, tell me how it falls. If it's heads, then you're going to go after the heads of the bandits. Whoop. If it's tails, you're going to watch the tails of the bandits vanish into the forest. Okay, so tell me what it is. Oh, what is it? Tails. You're going to let the bandits' tails vanish into the forest. So you've decided as a vote you're not going to chase after the bandits. Let them go. Okay. So let's forget that coin. Hey, that's my coin. You can keep the coin. Let's forget the coin, and let's pretend that now you and your group have decided to let them work out. Sorry, let them get away with it for now. Okay, you'll get to the farm towns, you'll sort out, but you can still remember, like, oh, hey, DM, it's now 10 sessions down there. We're going to go back and find those bandits because we know where they hang out. You can make that choice later. It's not forever. All right, here we go to the next stage. Each of you in the party, as I described, is better at different things according to those numbers I talked about, and it gives you a chance to shine. So here's the first thing that happens as we continue. You're riding in the carriage. You're climbing uphill. You're now pretty much at the summit. There's snow on the ground. The horses are making a lot of steam, and it's noon. The road is getting very narrow, and as you're going this way, this side is extremely steep, and the far side is extremely steep the other direction. You're on a narrow little track. You first hear, and then you see a giant baby. I mean, a giant-sized baby. Like if a giant had a baby, it would be giant size. Or maybe if a baby grew giant size, it's a baby. It's a baby like this tall. It's a giant baby. It starts running down the road with its eyes lit up towards you. Now, this baby has a red sash around his waist, and tied to the sash are a lot of dead animals that are waving around that he's caught. And he sees you, his eyes light up, and he wants to play. So he comes over to the carriage, he grabs the side of it, he's actually taller than you humans and elves, and he starts rocking the carriage back and forth like it's a toy. Well, the problem is that the carriage, he's on the far side, the carriage, if he tips it over, is going to roll down the hill that I just described, and that's bad. So it is time for a hero to take care of the situation. All right, who is going to push back against this baby? You can't even choose to kill the baby. Some DMs won't allow certain choices. Killing the baby is not okay, but you're going to choose to wrestle against the baby. And the best one to do this has a strength of +3. Let's start with that. So, if somebody in your party has a strength of +3, grab that die, right? If you have a strength of 3, check the strength on your sheets. Don't roll yet. Don't roll yet. That doesn't count. Whatever your roll was doesn't count. Even was good. So you see here on this side of the sheet, the yellow sheets would have a +3 for strength. However, maybe there's no yellow sheet in yours, in which case we want the next best one, right? So whoever has the strength of +2, you human fighters with green sheets, you might notice you have a strength of +2. If you have the highest strength in your party, you grab the die, right? So hold on to the die so everybody in your party knows who's going to roll. Now, are somebody tied? Does somebody have raise your hand if you're tied? Yeah. If so, somebody either has one die. Yeah. Are you tied? Yeah. Okay. You both have a +2, right? Oh, because you both have yellow sheets. Unusual, but that's fine. Ooh, you must be related. Like your soldiers coming back from you're going to settle in after a hard career of soldiering. You each roll the die. You each take turns rolling the die, and we take the better of your two rolls. So if you have 2 +3s or 2 +2s at any point that we have that, then you each roll and take the higher of the two when I tell you to roll. Now, whatever rolls you've done don't count, because I got to describe how rolling works. I know you're so eager. All right. So we got that. Yep, right. Okay. Now, so we have a strong hero or two that's named. So here's the story about you strong heroes. You strong hero, you get out. You push the other side of the carriage. Now, in real D&D, this would be your choice whether to do it. You could decide just to distract the baby or stay in and let the baby roll you over. But while we're all learning together, again, we're going to pretend that you've decided to wrestle this baby. And I'll pretend to be someone with yellow sheet, one of you out there. And I've got my die. I need to know my strength bonus. So on the slide, I look it up. Okay, now I know my strength bonus is 3. I'm holding onto my die, and I'm thinking 3. So I'm going to roll the die and add 3. So if I roll and I get a 9, I would add 3, 12. I said 9 + 3. You're allowed to say the total. If anybody says 9 + 3, anybody's allowed to say so. 9 + 3, I would just tell the DM 12, or I'd say 9 + 3 and somebody else would say 12. 12 is now out there. I, as the DM, have heard 12. Okay, so that's great. Got that, that's fine. Is that 12 high enough? Because high is always good. Whenever you're rolling, high numbers are better. Is it high enough to stop the giant baby from rolling the carriage over? This is where the story can go either way, depending on the dice and depending on how much you've added to it. So, all you strong heroes that are holding your die, now you can roll the die once. Each of you, strong, roll once. I rolled a 7, so don't feel too bad. Okay. So, now you've got a number. You've got your number. You add your strength bonus to that number. Again, the two of you, whatever's the highest of the numbers, just add the strength bonus to the higher of the two. So add the strength bonus. You've got a total. And again, to be super simple, right, if you have a yellow sheet, you have a +3, green sheets with a +2, you add it, the total. Is it 12 or higher? Is your total 12 or higher? If you're that human fighter with the yellow sheet, it means you had to roll a 9 or higher. If you've got the green sheet, you had to roll a 10 or higher, all right? If 2 heroes rolled, if either one does, you did it. Okay, all right. So if you're all done, some parties in this room now have a winner. You got a high enough number, and some don't have a winner because of bad luck. Now, we're going to do a temporary split. If your party has a winner, everybody in your party, raise your fists right now and yell, hell yeah, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Hell yeah. Whoa, a lot of success out there. All right, now those of you that have a winner in your party, here's what happens to you. Do we have a preemptive hell yeah? That's okay. Some people say hell yeah just for the hell of it. All right, so, yeah, some people get so, I want to say hell yeah, oh no, I didn't roll high enough. Hell no. All right, so, those of you who have a winner, here's what happens to you. The strong hero, you get out of the carriage. The rest of you are terrified, just frozen inside, hoping that things go well. There's a pushing war with the carriage versus the baby. There's a little bit of a ledge that you can barely stand on. The baby wants to push it over, and you push it back. The rest of you are terrified inside. You hear, after this goes on for a critical minute, you hear a voice in the distance, a mum voice. Tyrone, lunchtime, get back here, you dummy. The baby looks very guilty. The baby brushes himself off. He stops pushing the carriage. He cleans himself up. He puts his huge finger to the side of his nose and blows. A bunch of snot comes out and a glint of coins, like something falls out of his nose. Copper coins come out. It's your first treasure, yay! The baby runs back to the mum. All right, so if you were in a party that won because you rolled high enough, only if you got a 12 or higher, here's what you do. Write your new treasure on the bottom left corner of your sheet. And then after you split it up, this is your share. So everybody gets this. 9 CP, like this. Like this. So down the corner, 9 CP. Now you just say 9 CP, that's copper pieces. And a copper piece is like that 50-cent piece, which is definitely mine. I definitely want to get it back. I never gave it away. So a copper piece is like an Australian 50-cent piece, you can imagine. And you get 9 of them. Okay, that's all right. It's not the high adventure that you're hoping for, but it's a start. Now, you can also write a note like I do that, oh, they're snotty, or maybe giant baby. Because maybe baby snot is worth a lot. You know, if you show the DM, like, look, I have baby snot. You know, only if you write it down does it count. You can't say later on that you got baby snot. You got to write down now that you got baby snot. Maybe someone will pay a lot of money for snotty coins. So you can write that note if you like. If you don't want a second job, don't write anything down. That's fine. Okay, so if your party did not have a winner, I want you all to pound the table and yell, oh shit, on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, that's okay. In D&D, usually the most memorable moments come from the die being too low rather than too high. So you can imagine what bad luck that you had. You slipped onto some horse poo. The side of the carriage was greasy. It wasn't your fault. You tried. You did your best, but you didn't roll high enough. So here's what happens. You got out of the carriage. The others were terrified. That pushing war started. The baby pushes, you push back against the baby, but it's just not happening. You slip, and the baby wins. The carriage rolls off the edge. It rolls down the hill. Bam! All the horses break free. Bam! It's starting to speed up. And then bam! It hits a big boulder and stops. But all of you inside the carriage have been banged around and hit. You all lose. If you have that who didn't roll high enough, you all lose a hit point. Just like before, now you've lost another hit point because the roll did not go so well. And of course, no treasure. The baby wins and runs off anyway. So, just like with the Sturges, we did that. Okay. Nobody's at 0 yet, are they? You'd have to be really... Okay. All right, so the story continues. Someone else in this party will get a chance to shine or fail trying to shine. So, now the carriage is going downhill. And you see Timberway Valley. Yay! This is a point of view kind of from down in the valley. That notch in the mountains up there is what you're coming through now. It's called Raker's Pass. You're heading east, and you see this view from that high point to see how gorgeous this valley is. There's trees, very lush. You see east, there's a valley, as promised. It's just like it says on the tin. Some low hills, and then beyond some low hills on the far side, you see this gray line. That must be the sea. You can even see like little white dots sort of twinkling out there that you maybe have never seen for the first time. The afternoon sun glinting off those waves behind you. So in the river, off the distance, you see a river coming down the valley, and it curves and heads off towards that sea. The river is coming in from the north, and it bends and goes east. You're looking east at this point, so the river is going like that. And you can see right at the bend, you know to look for it, there's this little tiny, like a toothpick at this distance down there. That's a bridge that lies across. That's the creatively named Timberway Bridge. And that crosses that river, which is called the Timberway River. And that leads to, you follow, the farms. You can see there's like big squares of very light green where the forest has been cut away. And you can see that must be the farms. That's where you're headed. That's your destination. Finally in sight. It's great. You're going to have your new home. You're going to start as a farmer, or you're going to explore those ruins. And wait, the carriage has stopped. Why is the carriage stopping? Lying in the road is a figure. And this figure has long hair and this extravagant pompadour. And they have fancy silver, splinted armor, it's called, these bands of bright silver armor across their chest. They sit up and raise their head. you see they have something across their face. It's a silver visor, we would call it. It's like a band of silver that covers the eyes. And they push it up, and underneath, their eyes are completely burned, like all the skin from behind that visor is all red and blistered, and their eyes are really wild and staring at you as they push it up onto their head. From under their body, they pull out a broom, and they get onto the broom, and they go up. They are hovering over you, and they start to talk. They cackle. Horsies, horsies. Heat rises. Come on, horsies, I need you to pull the chariot. Looking up into the sky. They rise up on that broom and look at the horses, and they make this weird expression. They mutter a few words, they twiddle their hands, and they start clutching something, and the horses start to make noise. You think, I think they're casting a spell, and you look at the horses are starting to get uncomfortable because all the metal of the bridles and everything on the horse and the bit in the mouth is starting to glow a dull red, and the horses don't like it. Now it's a brighter red a few seconds later, and steam and smoke. You start to smell burnt horsehair, and the horses are screaming, they're shaking their heads. This bastard is casting a spell to make the metal hot. You've heard of this sort of thing. Oh no, you're gonna stop this. Okay, so they're hovering up there in this just few seconds, right? It takes me longer to describe than it actually takes. They're hovering up there, and they're near the tree line, and you know that they're concentrating on this spell. They're keeping the spell going because they keep sort of talking and moving their hands. Now, you can stop it by interrupting them. If you shoot at them, you might be able to distract them enough. You probably won't kill them. If they can cast this kind of spell, they probably won't die. But you might distract them enough that it'll break the spell. So, but you probably only get one shot before they move out of the way. As soon as they see you're shooting, they're going to move away. And you know, this spell can be kept going. Even if the person is out of sight, the spell will keep going, and it'll keep damaging the horses. So this one shot is very important. So it's time for a different hero. Now, who is best in your party with a weapon that has a range of at least 150? Yeah. One of you has something that says here, as it shows, range 150. That's feet. Remember, they're about 3 feet to a meter. It's imperial. I can't change it. Despite my accent, I am Australian. I used to be American. It's not my fault. Everything's in feet. So 150 feet. Right. So look for range. Down at the bottom of the sheet, look for something called range. Over something that has hit and damage type and all that. Now, you might not find it. But if you do find the thing on top that says longbow with a range 150, grab that die. Don't roll it. Grab that die because you're the hero. Now, if you don't have a fighter with, because the fighters, the green sheets, if you haven't figured out, are the ones that have it. Now, if you don't have a green sheet in your party, who has a short bow with a range of 80? It's not so good. Yeah? Yeah. So if you got a blue sheet with a range of 80 and there's no green sheet around, grab that die. You're the best one. It's out of range, so it's a hard shot. You'll see it has a 0 next to it because you're shooting something very far away. A short bow shouldn't go that far. Yeah? And again, if both of you have the same kind of bow, you each roll and take the higher of the two. Now, does somebody have neither of those? If you have neither a green or a green or a blue sheet? No? If somebody has no blue and no green sheet, then just somebody randomly at the table just grab a bow from the guard and you'll also shoot with a +0. Okay, so we've all got that. If that's all clear, again, if you're totally lost, right? Everybody should be ready to shoot. Somebody ready to shoot? You're good? Okay, so if you're a shooter, roll that die. Okay. Yeah, so this is you aiming and shooting, and the figure sees you raise the bow and starts to move out of the way, but you manage to get this shot off because they are too slow. And again, I'll pretend to be you. I look up my hit bonus, right? I got a +5, right? If I add a 5, I've just added 5 to what I've rolled. If I had a blue sheet, I only added 0 to what I rolled, right? And then I've got, let's say I rolled the die, I had 5, let's say I got a 13, right? Let's say the number is 13. Is 13 high enough to hit this loony, right? This loony is wearing very good armor. It's very far away and on the move, very hard to do. So all you shooters have rolled. Okay, great. If you don't, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. Is your total 14 or higher? 14 or higher. Yeah, it's a high goal. It's a higher number. It's hard to hit someone with that kind of armor. It's hard to hurt them. Maybe you'll bounce off them, but you can't hurt it. Okay. If you're a human fighter with the green sheet, it means you rolled a 9 or higher, yeah? If you had a blue sheet, to get 14, if you had a blue sheet, you had to roll more. Okay. So if two heroes rolled, it means you both shot at the same time. We'll take the higher of the two, so that's a win. All right, if your party has a winner, so got that 14, everybody raise your fists and say, hell yeah, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Hell yeah. All right, so those of you with a winner, here's what happens to you. The bow twangs, the arrow hits them, and it gets in that gap in the armor, well aimed, like right in that gap near their waist. It breaks their concentration. The heat immediately stops, and the horses start making less noise. They pull the arrow out of their side. They give you the forks, they throw the arrow at you pretty fast, but you step aside. Say rude as they throw it at you. Some silver bracelets they're wearing come flying off their arm as they toss the arrow, and they'll come landing down on the road. And they fly off on their broom. The silver in the road is your treasure. So if you're in a party that won that, if you got a 14 or higher only, write silver bracelet 1 SP. So right now in your treasure thing, silver bracelet 1 SP. The brackets just means that that anybody would buy this off you for 1 silver piece. Okay, that's 10 times better than a copper piece. That's like a $5 note. Getting better. Okay. And that's just because just the raw silver is worth enough. Again, you might find somebody who knows who this loony is, and maybe this thing is special somehow. You might be able to sell it for more, but if you just go up to your random vendor, you could tell the DM, I'm selling this, and the DM would say, okay, what does it say? 1 SP? You got 1 SP. So, the horses are okay if you're a winner. Their hair got kind of scorched, but they're all right. And most importantly, Vistra is very thankful to you. Very worrisome development that you saved. Now, if your party did not have a winner, hit the table and yell, oh shit, on 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. So, if there's no winner, here's what happens to you. If it was a pretty good roll, it means the arrow hit them but bounced off the armor. If it was a very low roll, you didn't even hit them. It just missed entirely. So they see you try, they give you the forks again, right? They fly off. And as promised, the spell keeps going. So the hot chains are hurting the horses. You have no choice but to start pulling and dismantling all that stuff just with your hands, and you all get burned in the process of removing that, and you all lose 1 hit point. So subtract 1 hit point if you did not have a winner. The horses got burned. I would track the horses' hit points. They have hit points too, so the horses might have died if they've been hurt before. Maybe they tumbled. If they both tumbled down the hill and got burned, I might say one of the horses dies. They've taken 2 bad things today. So a few things can happen. But let's not worry about the horses right now. They're tough, and you've lost the hit point. Most importantly, Vistra is really upset. Her horses got hurt. Their horses got hurt. Anyway, as the figure in the both of you all see this. As that figure flew off, you saw something shiny and metal kind of tumble away from them. Some big silver thing come tumbling down and landed in the forest off the road. Anybody have any idea what that thing might be? Say it out. Ah, yeah, it was probably that visor. Well, that was an interesting thing. So you might make a note. Again, you don't need the second job, so you don't need to remember this. But if you like taking notes, you might say, okay, silver visor off-road. And then later on, you can tell the DM, we're going to go to the forest and find that silver visor. For now, I'm just going to say you decide not to do that. We'll get on with the adventure. But that's something that could be a teaser for a full session later on. All right. So that took quite a bit of time. You had to reharness the horses, you had to calm them down, or whatever else happened. That giant baby was a delay. Vistra is panicking for some reason that you don't quite understand. It's like, get on the carriage, we've got to go. It's getting dark, we've got to go. They don't even make up a poem, they're so upset. You have to get in the carriage and go fast downhill. You're heading towards the valley floor before it gets dark, they say. The road, it goes into this notch, like the walls get very high all of a sudden, like this road is carved into the rock, and the walls get higher and higher, and then you come out of the notch again, and you're on a normal mountainside. You look behind, like you've just come out the side of like this straight cliff, but it's super straight. It's like razor straight as far as you can see in both directions, very unnatural. And in that direction, it's covered with ice, and in this direction, it's just like normal rock. It's divided by this notch. What's up with that? Something you might remember later on. But anyway, no time. You keep on going. You're heading down and starting to weave down these roads as you go. The guards are peering out. The sun is setting behind you because you're going this way, and the shadow of the mountain is ahead of you. They're peering out. You're in the shadow of the mountain, but the valley floor ahead is still sunny. So they're going as that shadow is still creeping ahead of you. You wind down, now it's flattened out. There's big boulders all around that have fallen off the mountain. You're still in the shadow. The line of sunlight is getting closer, but it's too late. There's a rumbling sound. Boulders come rumble, rumble, rumble down to the sides. And maybe there are these small figures that seem to be pushing these boulders that you see, hidden in the darkness. Crack, the boulders come together and they collide in the road perfectly in front of you. And whoa, the horses have to stop and the carriage is stopped and everything's all confused. From all sides, these small creatures appear from behind the boulders all around you. They're very hard to see in this shadow. Vistra screams in terror. No, we almost reached the sunlight. Morning Lord, save us! Save us, bring us your light, Morning Lord. The gods are probably listening, but the gods don't care right now. So, kobolds attack you. Kobolds! They're short. They come up to your waist if you're human, or if you're a halfling, they're about your height. If you're a dwarf, they're a little shorter than you, but you're much stockier than they are. They're covered with scales. Also, the green fighters are also on the shorter side. Covered with scales. They have dragon-like faces. They have daggers and they have slings. They're twirling those around. They have beady, cold, reptilian eyes. Now, kobolds can have any disposition, but every story you've heard about them in this part of the world is pretty bad. Like, they love to rob people. They love treasure. They are so greedy, it drives them towards evil acts. Well, this looks like no exception because the carriage is rocking, the kobolds are climbing on, and they're cutting off all the various bags and things on the outside to start steal all that treasure, but they start pulling open the doors, breaking them open, and they start pulling people out and demanding all the treasure from them. And this greed is overwhelming. As the more treasure they see, the more frenetic they get, and the more they're waving these knives around. There's a big chest on the back of the carriage. As it gets cut free, it smashes, it breaks open, and there's these big like a big set of hoops, like bronze hoops around a big ball in the middle. Strange mechanism you haven't seen before that you don't recognize. That's weird, but it's ignored for now. The kobolds are looting everything, and you all start moving in. Other kobolds are moving into attack. You're just coming to. This is how it happens in a few seconds. The guards are calling for help. If you haven't started getting out of the carriage already, maybe this is the time you get out. You get out ready to fight, let's say. Now, I'm going to show you how combat works. Okay. So we're about to play part of D&D, which is like a game within a game. This is combat, and this is where the rules are more precise. They're a little bit less loosey-goosey because life and death are on the line. I want to kill you fair and square, or I want you to have such a great fight that you feel great about winning this fight. So the rules get tighter, more like a real, like a normal board game. This combat is very basic, right? So I'm just going to give you a very simple thing, but it gets more complex. Nobody says D&D is too simple by the time they get to the end of this process. So if it's simple for now, don't worry. As you advance, it does get more complex. Now, it's like a footy match. Two teams against each other, and you're all on one team. And the combat goes in rounds. And I'm going to run through this slide. So each of you, a PC is short for player character. It's just much shorter to say PC from now on. So each PC, one of you each get a turn to attack. Each monster on the field gets one turn to attack. An attack can kill someone, can weaken them, can knock them unconscious, it can slow them down or do other things. And if you don't eliminate monsters, then there's more monsters around and therefore have more chances to therefore hit you. Now again, you could debate like, oh, let's try debating with the kobolds, or let's all run away, or whatever else. We're going to simulate that you decide as a group to fight these kobolds, because they basically started it. They've already started like stabbing people who aren't moving fast enough. So violence is clearly on their mind. Now, we're going to run through what an attack would be. Let's say a volunteer is going to attack somebody here with the blue sheet, all right? So I'm looking over there with the blue sheet. Blue sheet is a rogue, I believe, yes? Okay, so rogue, you're using a sword, and let's pretend that you rolled a 10. Okay, so let's say it's your turn to attack and you roll a 10. Now the kobold is tough to hit. Now you see here on the slide that the 10, I compare, as a DM, I enforce the rules. This is the world's rules. I don't make this up. I'm borrowing kobolds from the D&D people. They have something called armor class. That's how much armor they have and also how light they are on their feet. So it means that they're that hard to hit. You have to roll at least a 12 to damage them. And I look at the 10, it's less than the 12, and so as a rogue, if you rolled a 10, I normally would say, too bad, you don't hit the kobold. But you are a hero. You're no chump. You know how to use a sword, so we add something, as usual, to that die, right? You are a hero. You're not ordinary. You are so good that you get to add 5 to your die every time that you rogues swing that sword, because you've practiced it for so long, and you're very dexterous, which means you're very fast and lithe on your feet. you know how to fight. So you get to add 5. That adds up to 15, and that's more than 12, and that means you hit the kobold with your sword. Okay, that would be good news, but that was just pretend. Too bad. All right, so now let's pretend that you rolled a 5, right? Instead, okay, that's not great. I add even more to it. It still only adds up to 10. 10. Thank you very much, Darren. 10 is less so even though you added that nice fat 5 number, it still doesn't work, and you don't damage the kobold this time. Okay, and the kobold is very mad at you for swinging at it, so oh shit, right? Now, we're all going to do that in your respective roles. We're going to do this where the first characters I call out, each character class, each by color, the ones that I call first are the fastest. You'll notice your dexterity, the higher your dexterity is, the faster you'll tend to move in combat. So we'll also use that as the way to figure it out, to get stuck into combat. So, but everybody imagine the scene was not your turn because the cinematics of this matter. Also, these people are protecting you. The more kobolds they get rid of, the better your chances of surviving. All right. So we are going to do this. All right. So at the bottom of your sheet, you have a line that involves some sort of weapon or a spell that you cast. And we're going to talk to the halfling rogues first with your blue sheets. Right? Take a look at that. So you rogues, you run into the fray. You're very brave. You have your short sword. You look quite large, your sort of childlike stature. You're about this tall, same as the kobold. The kobold is slashing its dagger at a guard, and you are going to come at it from the blind side. You're very good at this. You do a sneaky attack on this. And you, if you're a blue rogue, roll your d20. Now, all rogues should be rolling a d20, and you're a hero, so add 5. So you want a total. Is your total, yeah, so you got a total by adding the 5 to it. Is your total 12 or higher? Because remember, as I saw, that's the AC, that's the armor class, the kobolds, fair is fair. That means you hit it. If you hit it, say hell yeah. All right, rogues, okay. Let's tell your story, rogues. If you rolled high enough, if it added up to a 12, you cut that kobold's throat. It's spectacular, bloody death. Just spray. I love gore in D&D. It sprays all over the next kobold. It's just great. Good job. That's a sneak attack. Very high damage. Now, if you're a kobold, if you're a halfling rogue with a blue sheet, if you did not roll high enough, it didn't get 12, you missed that kobold. And it's because you ran up. As you did, the kobold just saw you out of the corner of his eye, and it kind of shoulder checked you, and your sword came late, that scalar shoulder. It knocks you back before you slash. That kobold is still alive and is pissed off at you, right? You're now its enemy. It's going to attack you later and wants to attack you. We'll remember that for later. But we're going to move on to the human fighters with the green sheets. Green sheets. So you, human fighters, now you're very good with the bow. We've already established that. You scan for an open target. Well, you find way up the hill, there's a kobold that's sniping down, firing down from up that hill. And it'll be very hard for anybody to run up there and hit it, but you're confident. It's behind a rock. It's mostly hidden, but you're confident. You aim at that kobold, and you fire at it with the twang. Now, I'm going to have you roll a d20, green fighters, and add 5, because you're a hero at this. Roll a 5. I'm accounting for the fact it's behind a rock. I'm not adding as much as I could add as the rock is getting in the way. You added 5. Okay, again, 12 is your number. So, green heroes, if you roll a 12 on 3, yell hell yeah. 1, 2, 3. All right, so thwack, that arrow goes into its neck. Oh, it just falls over with a spray of blood. It is dead. Good job, green fighters. But if you did not roll high enough, you'd roll a 12, the arrow falls a little bit short, or it hits the rock or something. That kobold is alive and mad at you, green fighters. Elf sorcerers, you next. You have purple sheets. Elf sorcerers with purple sheets. I know purple and pink are very similar, so up in the corner there. Oh, you don't have to, okay, fine. Well, let me describe first before you roll, that's all right. So, hold. If you rolled, keep it. You got to keep it if you rolled now. But before you roll, hopefully, you hang back. And you'll find out why you hang back a little bit later. But you go to the back of the crowd here, and you cast a spell. Now, in D&D, in real D&D, you could choose which spell to cast. You got a lot of choices. They're listed on a full character sheet, which you don't have right now. You could do magic missile, pew, pew, pew. You could set them on fire. That's always fun. But you could just hide under a rock. Sometimes sorcerers will do that. They'll just hide. But to keep us all together, let's pretend that you choose to freeze this bastard. So, You hold up a crystal, you look through it, you say some words, you chant, and a ball of super cold air manifests and appears in front of you and flies towards the kobold. Now, if you haven't rolled your d20, roll your d20, but if you have rolled it, keep it. Add 5 to it because you're very good at magic. And we're going to, again, it tries to get through the kobold's armor and dodging. So 12 is the magic number. So sorcerers, if you got a 12 on 3, yell hell yeah. 1, 2, 3. Hell yeah. All right. Yeah, it hits the kobold in the chest. They get covered with ice. They fall over and they shatter on the ground. Ooh, very impressive. Very nice. If you did not roll high enough, the kobold dodges that ball and looks your way and is very mad at you. Human fighters with yellow sheets. You're not slow, you're just average. Human fighters with the yellow sheets. You're going to face down that kobold with its dagger. Now you have got a great sword. A big sword you hold with 2 hands. You just run up to it and slash across it. Again, if it's a real D&D, you could be throwing a javelin right now, right, from a distance. Let's pretend you want to get toe-to-toe. You like to be in front of the enemies. You want enemies to hit you, right? So you roll a d20 if you haven't already. Add 5 to it. Okay, and 12 is the number. So if you rolled high enough with a 12 on 3, yell hell yeah. 1, 2, 3. All right. That sword, it chops the kobold down the middle. Right, it cuts his head right off. Very neatly, head flying through the air. Thanks to your great sword. Good job. If you did not roll high enough, your huge sword is a little too slow. The kobold steps back and the sword hits the ground in front of it, and now it wants revenge on you. Not last, just most careful, most thoughtful, most practiced. You know, you're very prayerful. You dwarven clerics, it's your turn now. Pink sheets, dwarven clerics. Now, different story. You see a kobold far off in the distance behind some rocks. You mostly hear it. It sounds like it's strangling someone. You hear the horrible choking sounds of someone. It must be one of the carriage passengers. You do remember, you're very observant, one of them ran off, away from the carriage in that direction, and they've probably been caught and they're being strangled to death. And the kobold that's strangling them, you only see like just the tip of its head just once in a while as it's moving around. Even a good shot couldn't shoot this one, and that's really too bad. Now, you could run up there with your mace, but by the time you get up there, a lot of damage could be done. You don't need to run around. You can do something different by calling on whatever god you worship. Now, in D&D, the gods are definitely real in that this magic power is sent to you when you pray. Now, some people say, do you really call them gods? Maybe they're just really powerful adventurers that have gotten up there and handing out magical treats, Or maybe they're the all-knowing, all-seeing things. But there's definitely multiple gods. They definitely are all fighting with each other and competing for everybody's attention. And you've definitely tapped into one of those gods if you're a cleric. And it can be a god of any disposition. So you're going to pray to that god. Now, when you pray to your god, you again cast you can pick one of many spells, many prayers. The one that we decide you pick is a divine flame appears. Now, this flame may leap down from the sky. It may leap up from the earth, depending on what kind of god you worship, if you know what I mean. But no matter what, it's powerful. Now, the kobold will be hard to hit any other way, but when a god is doing it, it doesn't matter that he's nearly hidden. You pray. A bright flame appears. Now you roll a d20, cleric. All you pink clerics, roll your d20 and add 5 because you're good at praying. God likes you a little. And again, if it adds up to 12, on 3, you clerics yell, hell yeah. 1, 2, 3. All right. Yes, the kobold is immersed in flame, burned to a crisp. Good job, God. You can do one of those if you want. That's fine. Now, what if you did not roll high enough? If you did not roll high enough, if it didn't add up to a 12, the flame was on target because gods never get it wrong. Gods don't like to be told they did something wrong. It's just the kobold saw the flame coming and jumped out of the way. It dives out of the way, the flame erupts at its feet, and the kobold survives, and the kobold is now mad at you, you clerics who didn't do a good enough roll, but at least it's not strangling anyone because it's run away, so you've saved a life anyway. Now it's the kobold's turn. So, same as you, they get a turn, and they have numbers just like you. Now, if you have not killed your kobold in that last set of attacks, if you did not kill your kobold, remember that, I'm going to hold your honesty here, you're in danger because the one that you missed wants to attack you. Now, if you killed your kobold, that's great. Congratulations, but there's a lot of kobolds, more coming in all the time. So all of you are going to be attacked by a new kobold that I haven't described yet. So all of you are going to get at least one attack now by a second kobold appearing from the shadows. Now I'm going to call out to each one of you to see if a kobold hits you. And now the die is mine to roll. I've got a die over here. This is my DM die. I like to roll that over there. I'm going to, like you did the monster uses the same rules as you do. So I'll roll. I'll add something and see if it meets your AC. What is that? What is your AC? Just like monsters, you have a little thing in a shield on your sheet called AC or armor class, AC for short. Some of you are higher, some of you are lower, and I'll describe why when it's your turn. Okay, so I'm going to roll my die, and I'm going to add 4 because I'm not as good. I don't get to add 5, I only get to add 4. See, I'm so nice to you. And I want to roll high. I'm playing the part of the kobold that want to kill you. All right, so you halfling rogues with blue sheets, your AC is what? 14, yeah. You have leather armor, so it gives you some protection. It's lightweight, so also you can move around. Your dexterity really helps you. So it's a nice high number. The kobold rushes in from the shadows and lashes out at you with his dagger. This is all of you rogues. All of you rogues are going to have to look out. I'm going to roll my die. Okay, I'm going to add the 4, right? I rolled 15. I'm going to add 4, and I got a 19. Hey, 19. Hey, that's higher than your AC of 14. Wow. All of you rogues can yell, oh shit, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh, shit. The dagger slashes your arm. It cuts through your nice leather armor, and you bleed a little bit. All of you halfling rogues with the blue sheets, everybody, subtract 2 hit points. You know how by now? Up your current AC. Now, if you're one of those rogues who failed to kill your kobold, well, I won't pick you out. That's okay. I won't look at you. But if you're a rogue that failed to kill that kobold last time I talked about it, we'll continue the story with the kobold taking revenge on you and stabbing you back or whatever else. I'm not going to roll dice because it slows things down. If you did kill your kobold, ignore this bit. But if you didn't kill your kobold, speeding this up, you have to subtract 1 hit point. Subtract 1 more hit point, rogues. If you did not kill your kobold in that previous set where you rolled, you must now subtract 1 hit point as that angry kobold takes its revenge on you. All right. Anybody at 0? Rogues at 0? Say, oh my God, I'm at 0. You can yell that at any point. Human fighters with the green sheets. You're next. Your AC is what? Green sheets. 16. Very good. Okay. Yes. You have better armor than the rogue. It's heavier armor. You have extra fighter training. You're well defended. Fighters are very good at this. They want to be hit instead of people who have less AC. Kobold appears from behind the boulder that you fired towards and now hurls a javelin at you. I'm going to roll my die. Add 4. My total is 7. And that's less than your AC of 16. All right, good. So you fighters with the green sheets get to yell, hell yeah, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Hell yeah. All right. So you... 7 is really pretty low, so I'd say it's your dexterity that saves you. Like you twist away so it doesn't even scratch your armor. You are so fast on your feet. So if you're a fighter who failed to kill your kobold, however, that kobold is still mad at you. So all of you green fighters, if you did not kill your kobold, we continue speeding this up. You do take 1 hit point of damage as that kobold takes revenge. If you did not kill it, you've just lost a hit point. Elven sorcerers, your turn with your purple sheets. Elven sorcerers, your AC is what? 12, oh no. Okay, well, yeah, you don't have armor, you have robes. Magicians can't wear armor, but you have very nice robes. They have moons and stars and all that stuff or whatever you like. Yeah, but you do have higher dexterity than most sorcerers. Most sorcerers have an AC of 10. Yours is 12 because you are fast on your feet. And it's time to use it. Okay, so you're going to dodge this one as much as you can. A kobold pops up in the distance, sorcerers. It zips its sling around. It zings towards you. The stone flies at you like a bullet, and it's coming at all you sorcerers. I'm going to roll my die and add the usual. It's an 11. Ooh, that's just less than your AC of 12. Hey, so sorcerers yell, hell yeah. 1, 2, 3. Hell yeah. All right. You do the Matrix sort of, you dodge out of the way like this. It just barely misses you because you're so good. All right. You're very fast. Good job. So that's great. Now, if you're a sorcerer who failed to kill your kobold with that ball of cold, that kobold takes revenge and you do lose 1 hit point there. So if you missed your previous kobold, you must subtract 1 hit point. Human fighters with yellow sheets. Your AC is what? 16. Hey, you've got expensive chainmail. You're a soldier. You know how to dress, right? Expensive. It makes up for being, let's say, not so dexterous. So It's going to absorb. The kobold runs at you at a sprint and swings a club at you. I'm going to roll my die and add 4. I got a 15. Ooh, that's barely less. 15 is less than your AC of 16. So you fighters with these yellow sheets, yell hell yeah on 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah. That club hits you good. You just have such thick armor that it's just going to leave a bit of a bruise. You don't lose any hit points. It's very good. This is what fighters do, absorbing damage. Next fight you want to absorb as many of these as possible. Good job. If you are a fighter with a yellow sheet, but you did not kill that kobold with that great sword, it now takes revenge on you. Eventually, you lose 1 hit point. So, as before, as I've described others, you subtract 1 hit point. You did not kill your kobold yellow fighters. All right, dwarven clerics with your pink sheets. Your AC is what? 14. Okay, that's good. You have a simple mesh shirt, not as heavy, but you hold a shield. A shield adds some more to it. It means that your weapon is a one-handed weapon. Like the fighter has a big 2-handed massive sword. You have a mace, it has to be held in one hand. So you do a little bit less damage. Just 2-handed weapons just aren't your thing. You're a protector. Shields look great on you. Okay. Probably got a nice decoration of your god and everything. Okay. So the kobold appears at a distance using that sling. I'm going to roll my die and add 4. I get a 23. Hey, I think that's more than 14. So you clerics yell, oh shit, on 3. 1, 2, 3. The stone hits you in the neck. Oh God. It's hard to breathe. Oh, that's a really bad one. So all you dwarven clerics with pink sheets, you must subtract 2 hit points. That was a bad one. And if you're a cleric with a pink sheet that failed to kill your kobold with God Flame thing, it takes revenge and you subtract 1 more hit point. Who's at 0 hit points? It's okay. It's okay. You can tell me. Nobody's at 0. Okay. All right. Okay. So the battle continues like that. Now I've got good news. Like you and the guards, you kill a lot of kobolds. You're very good. You're very heroic. I'm very proud of you. But there's bad news. There's a lot of kobolds. And you did well, but like in Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings, how sometimes there's that scene where the heroes really try, but they get beaten anyway. Yeah, sometimes it goes like that because the kobolds, they're coming in from every direction. It's very dark. You see why Vistra was so worried about being at the spot while the sun was still shining, because pretty soon you just can't even see them. They're flinging death from every direction, and things really start to go bad. The horse goes down, its throat has been slashed. The other one runs off into the darkness. The driver, Vistra, you see their throat slit before your very eyes. Face down, Vistra. One guard, his head is being bashed in with a rock. The sibling comes up, stabs the kobold doing it, but then another kobold jumps on top of that one. They have like a stack of 3 things that sort of falls down out of sight. The other passengers are surrendering, but the kobolds aren't taking any prisoners. You would give away where their prime ambush spot is. They're taking no prisoners. They're taking treasure, and they're taking lives. They start to put daggers into throats and stomachs all around you. You are surrounded. You're facing death. You think this is the end, and that's just the breaks. You're only level 1. Level 1. That's what the 1 next to you means. You went on this adventure so you could get experience. You could overcome enemies like this. You become level 2. You would have more hit points. You would have more stuff. If you were level 2 or 3, you might have won, but not today. So, good night, everybody. Oh, I'm just kidding. No. You think that you're breathing your last, but an especially well-armored and bejeweled kobold comes around, was in the fight, and she sees that broken open chest I mentioned that had all those hoops and that sphere in the middle of it. And she calls out to the others as soon as she sees it. And as soon as she calls out, they all stop doing their slaying. The kobolds call her Nat Nat. She's apparently their leader. And she warily kicks the chest open and revealing that sphere more. You most intelligent ones in the group, you recognize it as what's called an orrery. It's a big model of what you might call a solar system. It's got like the orbits of various heavenly bodies around a central body that supposedly you live on, that supposedly is round. That's what you've learned an orrery teaches you. So this model of the space has meteors and stars and planets and stuff all zipping around. Now, It looks kind of broken and bent, but it's very interesting. Nat is very excited by this. She says to the kobolds, they're talking in this odd language. Now, some of you know this language. It's called Draconic. They speak the language of dragons, these little scaly creatures, and some of you have learned that. And you can tell what they're talking about. They're excited by this thing. But the word they use for orrery is not Draconic. It's this long, weird word full of like X's and K's with a lot of glottal stops. And as they say that, they're pointing up. And all the kobolds at the same time point up to the east, and their arms are all going at the same angle, and they're staring off at the same point in the sky as they say this weird word. Anyway, Nat wants you kept alive now. And you hear that you should be taken as prisoners to the south, to their cousins. They're going to sell you to those cousins. They're going to sell the orrery, most importantly, because you need to be kept alive. One of you must know how to operate this thing, and that's worth a lot of money to those kobolds. You must know how to work it, so off you get. So you and the party are kept alive, and you are caught. Surrounded as you are, most of the carriage passengers survived, but they're all worse off, but some are dead. Your hero heart would start to burn right now, right? You know, you might feel survival or anger or excitement. This is the kind of adventure I wanted to get into. There's something awakening in you, and even this has made you more powerful. Your stuff is all taken. You know you'll get a chance to escape this. It's just now is not the time. There's just too many. So manacles are put on your hands in front of you. Your stuff is all taken away, but your armor is kept on because it's too heavy. You're gagged for some reason. They don't want to have you be able to talk. And a couple dozen kobolds are all taking you as a group. Nat and the others, they stay behind. They're waving goodbye, and they're taking the treasure they got, and they're going off. You see them head off the road into like a little trail to the north. You can remember that for revenge later on, where the kobolds came out from. They're not expecting you to survive, so they don't care that you see it. Note that for the future. Now, this is actually the start of your real adventure. If you had won that fight, if you had gone to that farm that you wanted to go to, you would have fought some goblins, which are even more fearsome creatures. And these goblins would be raiding and killing, and it would have gotten worse and worse. And then one day, the goblins would have stopped showing up, and you could have gone about your business. And you would have been thankful, but you don't know why. Why did those goblins stop? Well, it turns out some heroes stopped those goblins back at their source, where they came from the south. Luckily for you, you lost this battle, so you are being kidnapped. You're being brought to that source. The heroes are going to be you. You're going to stop the goblins if you survive. So you're poked, you're pushed, you're led in a line southward. The night is falling. You and the party that have good wisdom, you know that you're heading generally south to southeast. You who understand Draconic know the kobolds are debating how to find someone. We're going to take a little break. You can stretch, you can use the loo. Please buy drinks from Big Fork. Thanks for all the support. The second half is much shorter than the first, so hopefully you'll come back. In 5 minutes, let's come back, sit in the same place with your same groups, same sheets, don't change your hit points, and come back in 5 minutes, everybody. Yeah, thank you. You're doing great. Okay, so the kobolds are all chattering to each other as you travel through the forest, bound as you are. You see a bonfire up ahead. The flicker of flame through the trees becomes clear as you're led to this bonfire. The bonfire is in apparently the ruins of a big brick tower. Maybe it used to be a brick tower. Now it's just a brick floor with a low, crumbling brick wall and a big square around it, just red brick everywhere. And sitting now on the other side of the bonfire, you see, staring into the flames, you see a human in red robes. He has a sharp black beard, his hair is slicked down. His face isn't wrinkled, but his eyes look very old. Coming out of the bonfire is a spiked black chain, and you could swear that as you got closer to it, the chain twitched on its own. Well, you're all led and poked towards this man, and the kobolds seem to be expecting this, and he seemed to be expecting you. The kobolds chatter all around him. They move very slowly as they face him, talking to him. One talks to him in Draconic. You know, you only hear a little bit of that. But the kobolds are telling him about all the things that you did in that battle, the spells that you cast, the weapons you used, how easily you killed various things, how much damage you took. He seems interested in that. He's nodding as he hears this story. He gestures to a pile of gold coins that's over in the corner of these ruins. The kobolds each very deferentially go over and take a gold coin and pocket it and back up again. Then they pick up these long spikes, these pikes they're called, and they all get in a circle around you and start poking at you, backing you towards the fire. So pretty soon, being poked and bound like this, now your backs are all to the fire. You're in a ring and you feel the heat behind you. The man walks around you and looks at you with a sneer as he addresses you. Prove to me that you are not useless, and perhaps I will spare you some of the pain of this world. Who have you seen that was wearing something red, like my robe? So, time for a different kind of hero, because it's not always dice in D&D. Who in your group has the best wisdom score? Is that good, Darren? Good. Okay. I made it fall asleep. The wisdom score, right? Now, look for your wisdom and look for a big +3, right? So start with a big +3. Now, some of you, you have to be a cleric here. So if you have a high wisdom, I might have a different story. But if you have a +3, you're one of the dwarven clerics, right? With the pink sheet. Yeah. I see Kate over there. Yeah, Kate, that's me. Well, these volunteers, by the way, most of them played last year. They all started last year. So they've been down the journey that you've done. And we have cleric. Okay. So if you have pink sheets, you have the +3, you're the hero. Now, you don't need to grab a die. You are going to just grab onto your sheet. Make sure your sheet is in front of you with a little bit to write on. Now, if your party has no cleric with no pink sheets, I'm not going to go for wisdom here. I'm going to go for the human fighter with the yellow sheet. Because you're a soldier with pretty high charisma if you're the yellow sheet. So if there's no pink sheet, the yellow sheet should be doing this because of your reasonably high charisma and you're trained to notice uniforms. You're maybe an officer in the army, in the military. So if there's no cleric in the party, if you have a yellow sheet, get that in front of you and get a pencil ready. And if neither applies to you, as usual, somebody in your group can just volunteer to do this next part. Okay. So those of you who've got your pencil and your sheet ready, either the yellow sheet or the yellow sheet if you don't have one, pink sheet or yellow sheet, you're going to write at least one, but no more than 3 answers to this question on your sheet, on any blank part. And I'm going to show you a slide. Because he asked you this question. I want you to write down any of the 3 things you heard in the story so far that I described as wearing something red. And it doesn't count. His robe doesn't count. He's asking who else wore something, so not him. 3 things. You can talk amongst yourselves. You, as a cleric, though, you're the only one that gets to write them down. So talk a little bit. There have been 3 things in the story so far where they're wearing something red. You can get ideas from others. You have 30 seconds to discuss. So start committing. Only 3 things. 12. 10 seconds. Okay, stop discussing. All voices must be quiet. This all happens in a few seconds as the man is staring into your eyes. Now, if you are a cleric with the +3, only if you're a pink sheet cleric, you are extra wise and composed. So everyone else, including you fighters, you can't write, you don't get more time, you can't add to the answers, you can't talk. Clerics only, I'm going to give you another 10 seconds to think, just peace for a few seconds, and write, just you silently. You have to have 3 answers. If you've written down more than 3, you can only count the top 3, so you can cross things out or change them. 10 seconds for only you clerics to update that list to finalize your answers. 8, 7. Okay, stop. Pencils down. That's all the time that the man has given you to think of this. Here are the answers. The corpse in the library at the beginning of the story wore a red lounging robe. The dwarf singing in the inn holding up the battle axe had a red fur coat. And the giant baby had a red sash around his chubby little waist. Oh, not big waist, actually. All right, those are the 3 answers. Now, if you have, I'm only count the top 3 answers there now. Look, cleric, or whoever has a pencil. Put a check mark next to each correct answer you have. And you can only count among the top 3 things. Look for correct answers. Write a check mark next to each correct answer. And, definitely close enough. You can be, I'll be a little free. I'm not checking you. So there we go. Got that? If you got at least one check mark on your sheet, at least one check mark, your party and you are a winner. And here's what happens. So if you got at least one check mark, the man in red nods, interested in what you had to say, gestures to the kobolds. For each check mark that you have, each correct answer, the kobold gives you a little red berry, like a little cranberry. So if you get one check mark, you'll have one berry. 2 check marks, you get 2 cranberries. Now, the good berries they're called. You don't need to write them down because you want to use them right away. Well, they are good berries. Eating one gives you 1 hit point. Gives you 1 hit point. You or anybody else in your party. And you, whoever wrote these answers down, get to decide who gets what. You can eat all of them right now and give yourself 3 hit points. You can you can give ones to other people. Mark the hit points on the sheet by adding your hit points. You decide now. You can discuss. You can make your case for why you should get more hit points than others. You can save the berries. If you want to save them, write down the berries you didn't eat if you want to. So you've either eaten them, or if you decided to hang on to them, you can write down on your sheet 1 good berry or 2 good berries if you decided not to eat them. Okay. So much fun. Maybe somebody here didn't have any check marks, though. So if you did not get any check marks, no answers right, here's what happens to you. I'm not going to pick you out. I'm just going to talk to you. The man in the red robe sneers at you all. Useless. When our reign rules supreme, you will be like sheep for us to use. The spiked black chain in the fire whips around at you, and you all get slashed and burned to lose 1 hit point. If you had no check marks, everybody in the party loses 1 hit point. Is anybody at 0 hit points? 0? No? Okay. All right. The man in red waves you and the kobolds away, and the kobolds lead you further south. Your march continues. It's getting very late. You are gagged, you're manacled, and you are really fucking tired of this forest. I tell you about it. So the kobolds, when they get excited, they're stopping again. Now it's rather jungly now. I don't know what's up with the biomes in this valley, but it's gotten kind of more humid and more jungly as you've gone south over a few hours. There's vines now everywhere, and the vines have overgrown something large in this jungly forest into clearing. As they pull the vines away, you get to see there's a large crate, a big wooden crate. It's got a logo of a ram's head sort of painted on it, maybe stenciled, and stenciled on the side, like those military-style letters, is the words Roscoe Ripper. The kobolds argue, they fight, they want to open this chest, and they're all this crate, and they all are pushing and wrestling with each other. They fight each other, they push, they get out their knives. One of them wins, pushes the others out of the way, is in victory, pulls open the lid of the crate and looks inside. Flame shoots up out of the crate, and the kobold falls back with the head just singed clean off, flopped down the ground. Whoa, everybody goes, and boom, boom, boom. Fire is coming up out of this crate, and it's shooting up in these big sparks, and you've never seen anything like it before. It goes, woo, up and go, pow, and explodes in this big sort of starry burst, and all the sparks fall down, and they keep falling, and they fall down, they fall on you, and they fall on the kobolds, and they fall on the trees. They fall on you, they hurt. One of the kobolds gets set alight by them, and the trees are all on fire. These things hurt, and boom, 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 they're still coming out of that crate. Everybody tries to look for shelter. You run, you hide under the only tree that really works for this because the nice thick canopy and the sparks you can't get through. But the fireworks out there, they just keep coming out of this distant crate and exploding. Now the tree has been set alight. The tree is going to burn down, and these sparks, if they keep falling, you'll have no shelter left. What do? One of you needs to run out there and close that crate. It's time for a hero. Now, who in your party is the best one to run and do this because they have a dexterity saving throw of +5. So there's a little box that we haven't used yet, and it's a little box that says dexterity saving throw. You notice it has strength and intelligence and constitution, but in little letters. And those numbers are not quite the same. The numbers might be a little higher in some categories because that means you've been especially practiced at this saving throw. Saving throws are things you do in reaction, right? You'll still, don't do it yet, but when you roll a die, when I ask you to roll a die, you'll add this because if it's better than your usual dexterity, you've practiced it really well. Well, that sounds like you with the blue sheets. You rogues with the blue sheets will notice that you have a +5 on your dexterity saving throw. 3 for your dexterity, another 2 because you've practiced, you've done dodged around, it's not your first firework rodeo, maybe you've done this before. So, to dodge the falling sparks, you're rolling that die. Now, if you do not have a blue sheet rogue in your party, again, if you're tied, that's fine, you have 2 rogues, but if that's not there, you sorcerers, well, you're familiar with big balls of fire, you've got this, you're reasonably dexterous. So sorcerers, you're going to use your dexterity save of +2. There's no rogue in your party with the blue sheet, you with the purple sheet, you're going to be the one that decides you've got the best chance out there. Dexterity save of +2. All right. Now, raise your die if you're a sorcerer or if you're a rogue, and if neither of those in your party, just pick someone, for God's sake, and use your dexterity saving throw. So, all of you heroes are ready to go. Now roll! You run out, dodging the falling fire. I rolled a 16. This is easy. This game is easy. 16. You add your dexterity saving throw. What's your total? Now, this is the hardest yet. You're going to be seriously heroic stuff now. Your total must be 14 or higher. I rolled a 16. Why couldn't you roll a 16? So, yes, if your total's 14 or higher, you're a winner. If 2 heroes rolled, again, if you're tied, if you had 2 rogues or 2 whatevers, but either one can do this. Either one can be a winner. Well, if your party has a winner, here's what happens to you. You run, you dodge each spark as it falls down, weaving among them. You jump over a burning log, you tuck in your legs. That looks really cool. A rocket fires out and levels out and goes towards you. You land on the ground, you're rolling, with your manacles on. That's pretty hard to do. You roll. You get to the crate, you kick upward with it. Bam! The lid shuts closed. You are all saved. The fireworks, of course, have stopped. Your friends all come out to make sure that you're okay. At that moment, you all notice these hot copper springs all over the ground. And they're hot to the touch. They must have come from the fireworks. The kobolds can't see because they're still panicking. Each of you who have a winner in your party get to pick up some loot. You get to write Copper Spring 10 CP. I don't have a slide for it. So just in the same thing, just write Copper Spring, like boing boing spring, and write in brackets 10 CP. You could sell it for 10 copper pieces. But it's a well-engineered spring. Who can't use a spring? You can find something to do that. You can invent the ballpoint pen. There's all kinds of things you could do with a spring. So, Copper Spring, 10 CP if you had a winner. Now, if your party did not have a winner, well, this is what happens. Your hero tries as best they can. You have some bad luck. They dodge, they jump, but 2 sparks fall at the same time, and a spark lands on them. They scream, they brush it off, another lands on them. They're getting hurt. Fuck this. They run back to the tree. The tree burns down. Now the sparks are falling on everybody, and it's all gone wrong. Everybody has to run away. You all lose 1 hit point. If you did not have a winner, you all lose 1 hit point. Who's at 0 hit points? Nobody, so some people are getting close. Nobody's at 0? Okay. All right. The march continues after this debacle, but thankfully you're out of the jungle. You enter a burned forest, and it's a sharp line where all of a sudden you're just among crunchy ash on the ground, skeletons of trees as far as you can see on these sort of rolling hills, and it's just like this line has appeared. And it's weird. It's like it burned down yesterday, but there's no smoke rising. Everything's crisp and crunchy, like it's freshly burned, but it doesn't feel warm. Very strange. So, as you march along through this burned forest, heading south, a rainstorm comes, and it's acidic. It's just these ash in the air. The water burns your skin, and you can't stay here. You start looking for shelter. There is no shelter. All the trees are burned down. But there's a foundation in the ground. Must have been a cottage, flagstones, where there's a burned trap door set in the ground. It must lead to something. It gets pulled open, and there's steps going down. You all run down and close this trap door behind you. It's a cellar, something that used to be underneath the house, long since burned down. All right, it's completely dark in here. Pitch black as it shuts. Now, some of you can actually see in the dark pretty well, but kobolds can do it super well, and they start making noise before you do. They are gleeful, and as your eyes start to adjust, you can see what they're so happy about. There's a treasure chest here, and they're fighting over who gets to open it. It's like, oh no, kobolds, don't you remember what happened? Stop fighting. But no, you've got gags in your mouth. You're not arguing. So they are all pushing and trying to fight over it, and then there's a little voice from one of the kobolds. Ah! You see her. She holds up a little metal thing with like hooks and things on it. And they'll go, oh, ah. It's a little set of lockpicks. Oh, ah. They all back off. And she's the one that knows how to open up a treasure chest with this little tool that she's got. So she kneels down in front of the chest. She puts the little things in there, turns it. Everybody's very tense. You're trapped in this little cellar. Who knows what's going to happen? There's a click, and the lock falls open. It's like, oh, good, okay. Then the sides of the chest go bam, 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 bam. They fall away on all sides, and there's a glass box there now, and there's a bunch of little dark shapes in the glass box, and they all start rising up, and there's a buzzing sound, and they're flying around inside the glass box, and oh my God, it's bees! There's bees inside this box. It's some sort of trap, but you don't see anything more because most of you suddenly fall asleep. Darkness and sleepiness overwhelms you, and thud, you hit the ground. And you just see the kobolds doing it as well. You are in dreamland, and we'll sort out in a moment who might stay awake. Whoever does stay awake in your party sees that on the front of the chest is a logic puzzle that spellcasters are fond of. The idea being that only other magic users are smart enough to solve this. So here is an easy version of the puzzle that is on the front of the chest. Not this puzzle, but here's an example. Okay. So to solve the puzzle, you choose one of the tiles on the bottom here. The lettered things are the possible answers to the puzzle here. So imagine you're pushing one of these buttons, and that's your committed answer. You figure out the pattern by reading each row of this thing, looking at each row from left to right. So as you follow it from left to right, there's a rule that's being followed, and it's the same rule for all 3 rows. Which letter completes the bottom row by using that same logic? Anybody know it right away? A. Yeah, exactly, A. So, right, so this one's a little bit easy, but for those who don't explain it, that's fine. So the rule is the little black box moves in its little miniature row to the right, and it goes from the left to the middle to the right. The next row, box is in a different place, but it follows the same rule, goes across to its other side. So in the bottom one is following the same rule. There's only one selection that satisfies that rule. The box is in its position where you see with A. That's the solution. You push A, and that is the one and only answer to the puzzle. Okay. Here's another harder example. Now don't blurt out the answer on this. Okay, here's another example. Without me saying anything, which one is right, but don't say it out loud. It will be timed. The answer is F. The answer is F. So here, oh, I will, yeah, you're right. Yeah, do remind me if you can't see it, so. Sorry about that. That's why you got it wrong. I was blocking the F. The answer is F. So the block sort of slides along the line. The rule is the block is sliding. So if I could do it this way. And even though the line is tilted a different way each time, the same rule gets followed. So on the bottom, the stick never rotates, right? The rule doesn't allow the stick to rotate. The stick stays in its position, but the block slides. On the bottom, there's only one solution where the stick is vertical as it should be, and the block slides to the far end as it should be, and that is the answer F. Okay, so it's time for a hero. Which of your party is awake because they are an elf? Yes, species at the top of the sheet. So at the top of the sheet is something called species. This is just, what was given to you at birth, right? And you have many, many kinds in D&D, right? So some of them aren't even really human or humanoid. You have amazing species they can choose from. These are all what we call kind of these classical ones, or sort of the natives of this particular land that you're in. Elves, dwarves, halflings, dwarves, humans. I've mentioned something twice. All those are amongst you. So that is your species. Elves are different in many ways. Elves are immune to magical sleep. It's just the way that elves are. It's a property of your species. You're immune to the magical sleep spell that put everybody to sleep. So you are awake and able to solve this puzzle. So if that's you, get your sheet and your pencil ready because you're going to be taking this next test. And again, if there's 2 elves in your party, both of you get to answer. Just don't talk to each other. Each of you can get your pencils ready. Do any parties not have an elf? Why don't you have an elf? Every party should have an elf. Okay. If you have no elf, that's bad news. No elf. Oof. All right. So cleric, the cleric in your party should give it a go because thanks to your magical training, you, the cleric, the pink sheet cleric, you jumped away from the box, because you knew about this sort of thing. You were pretty wise. So you were out of the range of the spell. And so, yeah, you are a little disadvantaged, but you get to solve it. Cleric. So you, cleric, if you have no elf, no sorcerer, get your pencil ready. And if you have neither, just pick somebody. Okay. Those of you who are holding up your sheets or got your pencils ready, get ready to write an answer on your sheet. Everyone except the elven sorcerers, that includes you clerics, for now, you fall asleep. So close your eyes for real. Everybody who's not an elf, close them. Clerics, close them too. But the elves have their eyes open. Because clerics, you jumped away. It takes you time to come back to the box, so you don't get as much time. The elves, you did not fall asleep. You're looking at this glass box full of bees. The buzzing is getting louder, is rattling, it's going to break. You look in the front of the box. You see a puzzle. You need to push one of those tiles to pick the right answer. And elves only, here it is. Okay, you non-elf heroes, if you're the cleric, open your eyes. Now you can reach the box and you can now try to solve it. But only you clerics and elves. And the box is going to break. 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Stop! Pencils down. Okay, everybody open your eyes. Now don't blur out the answer if you figure it out right away because you'll make somebody feel bad. The correct answer is D. D, and I can explain it thusly. The rule is that it's the hollow box that sort of rotates around the center. Everything else stays the same. So the plus stays the same, the dot stays in the same place, but you see the box is rotating around. Same rule being followed in the top one. Box rotates around. Next row, the dot's in a different place, but the box rotates around. The third row, everything stays the same except for the box. It rotates around. There's only one where the dot is in the same place and the box is rotated around, and that's the answer. Hey, all right. Even though I've written this down, I've performed this probably a dozen times. I'm still like, is D right? Like, I've tried to figure it out. Like, it's hard to figure out. It really is, especially when I'm looking backwards. I always think I think I would get it wrong if it were up to me. Okay, if a D got written down at the right time, you are a winner. If your party has a winner, here's what happens to you. You furrow your brow. You look at the puzzle. Everybody else is asleep. The buzzing gets very loud. The glass is cracking. There's just a few seconds left, and you push the correct tile. The bees all fall to the bottom of the box. They fall asleep. The magic spell breaks, and everybody else wakes up. You, who have opened this chest, who pushed the button, you see the top of the glass box is popped open, and in it is treasure. Fancy silver coins. The kobolds are still very dopey, so they don't see as you collect them and later split them up amongst your party. If you are a winner, each of you in the party get to write down 3 SP for silver pieces. 3 SP. Now, if you don't have a winner, you do the best you can. You pick the wrong tile, you can't decide in time, it's hard. So the crate shatters. The bees fly out and they sting everyone. Everybody in the party takes 1 hit point of damage. Everybody takes 1 hit point of damage if you did not get it right. But the kobolds take a hit point too. I would write down that damage. And damage does wake you up from magical sleep. Good to know. So that manages to wake you up. You go out the store, the trap door. Fuck it. The rain's better than this. But luckily the rain has stopped. You shut the trap door and we reunify. Anybody at 0 hit points? I'm so disappointed. Okay. All right. Finally, the burned forest drops away because you're at a canyon. You can tell by what the kobolds are saying is that you're finally at your destination. Well, what is your destination? You look down and at your feet is a jagged canyon in this burned ground. And it's fairly weirdly straight. It's going straight, eastward. The canyon continues. You're kind of at the end of the canyon, or at the western end of the canyon as you look down into it. As you look east down through this canyon, you're of course walking this way, and you're at the edge here, and you're looking that way. You know that the sea is off that way, and the canyon is heading towards the sea. You can't see it, you're too low. But on the way, you see that like the canyon cuts through this weird warped ground. Like the ground on this side of the canyon, it kind of goes up and down like a cloak that's been all folded, like a cat has been sort of kneading away at the ground. A giant god cat. And it's just weird. It's not natural at all. Okay, make a note of that. That's odd. You look down the edge into the canyon and you see caves in walls. There's many different monsters swarming around in these caves and in these canyons. The kobolds push you to hide in the bushes near the edge because they're so terrified. You peek out and look at these monsters. You see a marching row of goblins. These goblins are, again, only this high. Well, most of them are only this high, but they look quite fearsome. They have military gear, but there's large ones that are as tall as you humans and elves. Those have banners that are leading them, and even better geared with longbows. They're all coming out of one particular cave, swarming out and heading north. And there's another line of goblins you see coming from the north, laden with stuff. And not the kind of treasure goblins usually have. Their hands are full of like machine parts, and you don't understand why that would be. So you think, hey, we heard that the farms off the north were being raided by goblins. I think those goblins were stealing machinery. Oh my God, they're coming from here. So you realize you're at the source of this problem. Why? Why are the goblins going so far away to get machines? It's very ungoblin-like. Well, you put that away. You see some big orcs. They're down the hill from you. Orcs are giant and they're tusked and all this, but they're not so fearsome soldier-wise. They have almost no clothes on. They each have loincloths. Half of them have blue loincloths and half of them have red loincloths, and they have this big stuffed pig, and they're wrestling in a big pile with each other on this big flat field. I mean, I don't know what the hell's going on there. So the kobolds, they see a break in the scurry down there, and they scurry down out of sight, down a steep slope. You dodge, you duck from bush to bush to avoid the monsters. You reach a cave at the bottom of this canyon. There is a cave that's sheltered by a tree. More kobolds come out of that cave, and they must be the cousins that were talked about, and they look quite different. The kobolds that captured you have very light gray skin with sort of white, almost like snowy patches on tops of their shoulders and arms, whereas the ones that come out of the cave are a mix of like grays and browns and white, chalky whites, like camouflage. But they're kobolds, and they are doing a deal. They're very excited to talk to you, and there's a lot of talk about how much you're sold for. Money changes hands, and you are given over to your new best friends, the kobolds from the cave. The snowy ones, they say bye-bye, carrying their money. They go back off to the north to go back home, leaving you behind. The splotchy kobolds, they put bags on your heads now. There's a click, as now you can't see and also can't talk very well. The iron collar clicks shut around your neck. You're all led, now blind, and you can tell you must be in a narrow cave. You're bumping the sides of it, and it's very echoey. The cave twists and turns with kobolds ahead of you and behind you. You pass an opening on one side, and there's the sound of machinery, like electricity and pounding metal and grinding gears and things. You hear that going louder and louder, and in some sort of room this is coming from, you can only hear it. You hear the screams by this human voice, but it's this frenzied, desperate, craving human voice that says, I see it! I see the shard! Let me at it! Let me have the shard! I want the shard! Boom, 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 boom. And then this big stomping, tearing, crashing sound. What is that? Sound of metal breaking rock, but now is being left behind as you're prodded down. You keep going. You're shoved together. Now you're in a small space and you hit a kind of a flat sort of wall. There's a clang behind you, and the kobolds, now you don't hear them, and you turn around and try to follow them, and you feel bars. You feel bars that way. You feel bars the other way. You feel what appear to be bricks on the other two walls. You're in a jail cell, and you've been left behind by the kobolds for who knows what purpose. You still hear that screaming coming from down the tunnel. And that is where we're going to pause your adventure. Hopefully you liked that. Cliffhanger. So, hopefully you're keen to know what happens next in this continuing story. This is like a chapter in a series, or a session in a series, or whatever you call it. For a real D&D session, the same people in your party would come back, let's say in 1 or 2 weeks, to the same DM, same table, same snacks, hopefully different snacks, about every 2 weeks. One person is a DM like me, and the rest of you in the party would all be players. And it's much different from this in that it gets much more autonomy and choice. I had no choice but to make decisions for you, but that really changes. Even the next session can blow you away with how many choices are happening. There's infinite options eventually for what you do and how you progress through the world. This, of course, had the simple things, but D&D gets much wider and more complex. But I like to teach it a layer at a time. I'm a teacher, right? And even though I'm going slow, hopefully I've left nobody behind, and I continue that as we go. You usually stay the same character, but you can change characters. Certainly, next time if you get to another table, feel free to use a different sheet. I'll tell you how to get more sheets if you want more. If you keep the same character, you certainly would gain levels, you get more loot, you learn how to use that loot, and you make more choices as that character to get more specialized. Sometimes groups like this seriously meet every 2 weeks for years. They just keep going and going and going. There's no necessarily an end to the story. It's so great to hear about those stories. I do want to put in a word, there's many kinds of RPGs. This has all been Dungeons and Dragons, and this is a very rule-heavy thing. Lots of rules and mechanics. And I like that, that's my favorite. But some RPGs, RPG is the family, role-playing games, RPG the bigger family. Some of them have a lot less rules. They're much more about improvisation, very few dice rolls, much simpler dice, much less math. But you're expected to make up more of the story. That's also great. It's kind of like improv, comedy meets D&D in that way. You come to these meetup events. The meetup group that you're in will post events where you can meet other people. If you're interested in other RPGs or continuing games, you can join and meet up. I love assembling the things down here in Brisbane. Talk to me, I'll be there about what you're looking for, and we'll try to find you a group. If you're a more advanced D&D player or you know one, they also can find groups or assemble groups. They can become DMs. But you beginners, if you are an absolute beginner, if you've never rolled these weird-looking dice before, or at least never had fun rolling weird-looking dice before, come to our next event. Our next event is going to be around a table. So it'll be around a table. It'll be real D&D with one single DM. You might end up playing at my table. You might end up playing with some of the people in this room. And you might eventually come back on repeated things on every fortnight with whoever you play with. So it'll be your option. It'll be at a place nearby. It'll be posted there. It's just like a 5-minute walk from here. It'll start in about 3 weeks. So the meetup, but it won't appear in the meetup that you're using. That's the public meetup. You've got to go to my private meetup group and apply for that because otherwise everybody shows up. So you must bring that character sheet. And on the character sheet, there's a QR code or URL. You need to shoot that thing. And at the top, there's a link that says, hey, if you're a beginner, continue the adventure, blah, blah, blah. That's how you click that. And you absolute beginners, I encourage you just to give it a go. It's really fun, I think. You will join a meetup group. You apply for it. You describe yourself, and I'll let you in. And you can come to that session. So you're guaranteed a session there with a DM. Soon you'll know how to play with any DM in the world. You'll at least be ready for beginner games, and I'll give advice on that. We focus on being super inclusive and welcoming. No matter who you are welcome at the table, for sure. We promote respectful behavior amongst all of our players. That's very important. So we want you. The flip side of your sheet, by the way, start looking at that. You'll see it's the same character, just more stuff gets revealed. It now reveals a few more things, more detail, and we'll be using that side of the sheet, but you don't have to understand it. Just be aware that we'll be using that side of the sheet if you want to read ahead. We'll do that event very soon. We'll have an event soon that shows you how to modify your character. Even if you don't play with me or anybody else, you might just want to make an all-new character. Modify your character or make a new one. I run a workshop that teaches you how to do that. It's really optional. You can use that sheet then, but it's fun, easy to become someone even more different. We'll do an event for that. We'll probably do an event. I want to do an event where you paint little figures. Like some people make little statues of their characters that you paint. I keep saying I'd love to do that. Hopefully this is the year. Maybe with help from my volunteers, you can remind me of my promise. Now, if there are any DMs in the audience, like you're slumming it with the beginners, if you're a DM, I have great news. Everything I used tonight I give away for free. The script, the slides, the special character sheets, it's just open source. This is a nonprofit run by volunteers. I give it away. You can do it too. You could do it for everybody at your office. I won't give you ropes. You can make the ropes. We can invite your whole family, your whole office, a bunch of people, and you could perform the script and see who's interested in D&D. You might turn into an ongoing group. Lead them into playing D&D with you. So spread the word on that. Get them in touch or get in touch with me. I'll show you how. Please donate. There's a hat out there as you leave. I do take cards or take cash. We're a nonprofit org. We don't pay anyone here. All profits just go into it, and I lose money. I put my own money in to make up for the gap, and it's fine. So the chip reader will do that. If you donate $5, you get a new fresh pack of all 5 character sheets, which you can take away. You can show your friends. If you donate $20, you also get a D20, little D20, some monster sheets and a map. Pretty much everything you need to kind of play with home. You can kind of figure out how to play with people at home with that stuff if you donate $20 as a gift. Your feedback forms are down there. So that white square, that white rectangle, I really want to keep improving this. I only make it better through honest feedback. So please fill out that feedback form and just leave all these things on your table. Do take your character sheets, but please leave the ropes. Please leave the dice. If you want to die, please donate outside. But do leave that feedback form there. After I clean up here, I'll hang out here, have some drinks. Please patronize Big Fork with some more drinks. I'll stay here for a little bit. Come by and we'll chat more with each other. I hope you enjoyed this introduction to D&D. I'm Matthew Ford. I'm the founder of Rolling Rogues. And I want to thank the venue we're using. Big Fork is an amazing venue. They have amazing shows here. There's a D&D themed show coming up in just a few days. There's a slip out there that you can get, and I really recommend it. I've been there. It's like improv comedy with a D&D flavor. It's really a lot of fun. So please thank Big Fork as well for that, and thank our volunteers for helping make all this happen. So thank you, everybody. Hey, thank you all. I hope you enjoyed watching us teach Dungeons & Dragons to absolute beginners. Want to know more about how we do it? Then support our nonprofit mission. Unlock extensive how-to videos and use the Courage and Chaos method yourself by using free materials that we provide. You can get all that at the link that you see here. That is tinyurl.com/teachdd, or you can click that link in the description. Of course, please like, share, and subscribe. We're going to come out with these videos every 2 weeks in this series, so I will see you again soon.